The alarm didn't wake Benjamin Caine. It never did. His eyes had already been open for 20 minutes, staring at the ceiling of his bedroom, watching the shadows shift as dawn approached the Montana highlands. 4:30 in the morning, same as every morning for the past 30 years. The alarm was just a formality, a reminder that the world still operated on schedules even when your body had long ago stopped needing them. He reached over and silenced the clock before the second beep could sound. The motion was automatic, muscle memory from decades of the same routine. His hand was steady, always steady. That was the one thing the years hadn't taken from him. A sniper's hands don't forget, even when everything else does. The bedroom was small, Spartan. A bed, a dresser, a single chair where he laid out tomorrow's clothes each night. No television, no photographs on the walls. Those were in a box in the closet, and that's where they stayed. Looking at them didn't bring back the people in them. It just reminded him they were gone. Benjamin sat up slowly, feeling the familiar protest in his lower back. 53 years old. Young enough to still have strength, but old enough to feel every hard mile. He stood, walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on his face. The man in the mirror looked exactly his age. The lines around his eyes ran deep, carved by decades of squinting into scopes and staring at horizons. His hair was mostly gray now, cut military short. His jaw was still strong, but there was a weariness in his eyes that no amount of sleep could fix. He dressed in the dark, jeans, flannel shirt, work boots worn soft from use, the same uniform every day. Routine was survival. Routine kept the mind occupied. Routine kept you from thinking too much about the hours between sunset and sunrise, when the quiet got too loud and the ghost got too close. The house was cold. November in Montana didn't apologize for itself. He walked through the living room without turning on lights, knowing every step by heart. The couch he never sat on, the fireplace he rarely used, the bookshelf filled with volumes he'd read a dozen times each because buying new ones meant going to town, and going to town meant people asking how he was doing, and he didn't have an answer for that question that didn't make them uncomfortable. The kitchen was where he allowed himself one light, a single bulb over the sink, yellow and dim. He filled the coffee maker with water from the tap, measured out the grounds. 8 scoops, same as always, strong enough to taste like the instant coffee from the Gulf, the kind that came in pouches and mixed with water that tasted like sand and diesel fuel. He'd never developed a taste for the fancy stuff, didn't see the point. While the coffee brewed, he stood at the kitchen window and looked out at his land. 800 acres of Montana wilderness, stretching from the main house down through the valley and up to the ridge line where the sun would break in another 40 minutes. He'd bought this place in 1994 with money he'd saved from years of living like he was still in a barracks. Martha had wanted something smaller, closer to town, said 800 acres was too much for 2 people to manage. But she'd understood, in the way she understood most things about him without him having to explain. The land wasn't about managing it. It was about having enough space that the war couldn't find you. Except it always did. The coffee finished with a gurgle and a hiss. He poured it into a metal camping mug. No sugar, no cream. Took the first sip and felt the heat spread through his chest. This was the best part of the day. The hour before the sun came up, when the world was still deciding whether to wake up or stay asleep. Everything was potential. Everything was quiet. He carried the coffee outside, letting the screen door close softly behind him. The cold hit him immediately, but he didn't go back for a jacket. Cold was just temperature. Your body either adjusted or it didn't. He walked across the gravel drive toward the barn, boots crunching in the pre-dawn silence. The barn was older than the house. He'd rebuilt it twice in 30 years, replacing boards that rotted, reinforcing beams that sagged. It was good work, honest work, the kind that made you tired in a way that felt earned. Inside, 3 horses waited in their stalls, Ghost, Shadow, and Echo. Names that meant something to him and nothing to anyone else. They nickered softly as he entered, knowing the routine as well as he did. He fed them each 2 flakes of hay, checked their water, ran his hands over their flanks looking for injuries or swelling. Ghost was the oldest, 22 years now, gray and patient. Shadow was 15, still full of energy when the weather was right. Echo was 10, the youngest, with eyes that reminded him too much of the people he'd lost. He spent an extra minute with Echo, fingers working through the tangles in her mane, saying nothing because there was nothing to say. The sun was starting to think about rising. He could feel it more than see it, the way the darkness began to thin at the edges. He left the barn and walked to the workshop, a separate building he'd constructed himself over the course of 2 summers. Inside was his reloading bench, his gun safe, his tools. This was where he spent most afternoons, when the ranch work was done and the hours needed filling. He unlocked the safe, a heavy steel cabinet bolted to the concrete floor. Inside were 5 rifles, 2 handguns, and enough ammunition to hold off a small army. Not because he was paranoid, because he was prepared. There was a difference. He lifted out the M40A3, the rifle that had been with him longer than any person. 33 years, the Gulf War, then home, then every day since. He'd maintained it religiously, replacing parts as they wore, upgrading components as technology improved. It wasn't the same rifle anymore in terms of pieces, but it was the same in the ways that mattered. The weight, the balance, the way it fit against his shoulder like it had grown there. He carried it outside to the range he'd built behind the workshop. 500 yards to the targets, steel plates of varying sizes mounted on an earthen berm. In the Desert War, his longest confirmed kill had been 1,900 meters. An Iraqi officer coordinating mortar fire on a Marine position. 1 shot, 1 life ended, 30 Marines saved. The math was simple, even if the morality wasn't. These days, he kept his shots to 500 yards. Not because he couldn't still make the longer ones, because he didn't need to prove anything to anyone, least of all himself. He loaded 10 rounds into the magazine. Match-grade ammunition he'd loaded himself, each cartridge weighed and measured to within 1/10 of a grain. Consistency was everything in long-range shooting. Consistency and patience, and the ability to stop being human for the 3 seconds between breath and trigger pull. The first shot was always the hardest. Your body had to remember. Your muscles had to find the old patterns. He settled into position, prone on the shooting mat, rifle rested on a bipod, crosshairs on the center plate. Wind was calm, maybe 3 miles per hour from the west. Temperature 42 degrees. He adjusted the scope 2 clicks right, 1 click up. Breathed in, breathed out. Held the empty space between breaths. Squeezed. The rifle kicked against his shoulder, familiar and solid. 500 yards away, the steel plate rang like a bell. Dead center. His hands were still steady. Everything else might be falling apart, but his hands were still steady. He fired the remaining 9 rounds, 1 every 30 seconds, taking his time. 9 more hits. The plates sang in sequence, a melody of impact and precision. When the magazine was empty, he cleared the chamber, engaged the safety, and sat up. His shoulder ached slightly, his back ached more, but the shooting had been perfect, and perfection was the one thing he could still control. The sun broke over the ridge as he walked back to the house. Gold and orange light spilled across the valley, illuminating the frost on the grass, the steam rising from the barn where the horse's breath met the cold air. It was beautiful. Martha used to say that all the time, how beautiful the mornings were. He'd agreed because she wanted him to, but he'd never really seen it. Beauty required a kind of openness he didn't have anymore. The war had closed that part of him, locked it behind walls he'd built to keep the screaming out. But sometimes, in moments like this, he could almost understand what she meant. Almost. He cleaned the rifle at the kitchen table, disassembling it with practiced efficiency. Bore brush through the barrel, patches soaked in solvent, wiped down every surface. Light coat of oil, reassemble. The work was meditative. His hands knew what to do without his brain having to direct them. That was good. It meant his brain could wander, and this morning it wandered back to 1991, the way it always did. Operation Desert Storm, February 7th through February 28th, 21 days that had lasted 33 years. He'd been 20 years old, first real deployment. By then, he wasn't scared the way recruits were supposed to be. Fear required imagination, the ability to picture a future where you weren't around. Training had burned that out of him. What replaced it was a kind of focused calm. Do your job, keep your brothers alive, go home. Simple. His squad had been 9 men. Scout Sniper Team, 1st Reconnaissance Battalion, 1st Marine Division. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus O'Reilly led them, a 30-year-old Marine from Boston who'd grown up in the projects and found family in the Corps. Iron, they called him, because nothing broke him, or so they thought. The mission brief had been straightforward. Insert behind Iraqi lines near the Kuwait border. Eliminate high-value targets, coordinating artillery strikes on advancing coalition forces. 72 hours in country, then exfiltration by helicopter. Intelligence said the area was lightly defended, mostly demoralized conscripts. Get in, do the work, get out. Intelligence had been catastrophically wrong. They'd inserted on February 7th at 0200 hours. Helicopter drop in the desert. Low and fast, no lights. The sand swallowed them immediately. Everything was darkness and cold, and the constant awareness that enemy forces could be anywhere. For the first 2 days, the mission went as planned. They moved through the desert like ghosts, setting up hides in the sand, identifying targets, taking shots that Iraqi commanders never saw coming. By February 9th, they'd eliminated 4 high-value targets. Clean kills, professional work. They were good at what they did, the best. Then everything changed. February 10th, 0400 hours. O'Reilly received new orders via encrypted radio. Primary mission parameters changed. New target, different location. And the order came from someone who wasn't military. CIA contractor. No name given, just orders. Proceed to coordinates, eliminate target, exfil at original extraction point. O'Reilly hadn't liked it. Benjamin remembered watching the gunnery sergeant's face as he read the orders, seeing something shift behind his eyes. Doubt, maybe suspicion, but orders were orders. They moved to the new coordinates. The target was supposed to be an Iraqi supply depot. What they found was a full Republican Guard battalion, hundreds of soldiers, heavy weapons, fortified positions, and they were waiting, not randomly patrolling, waiting, in position, like they knew someone was coming. O'Reilly made the call immediately. Abort. They were compromised. Extract early. He radioed for emergency pickup at secondary exfil point Delta, 3 kilometers north. That's when the ambush hit. Iraqi forces came from 3 sides. Automatic weapons fire, RPGs, coordinated assault. Professional. Trained, nothing like the demoralized conscripts intelligence had promised. This was planned. Someone had told them exactly where to look. In the chaos, the squad scattered. 9 men breaking in different directions, trying to escape the kill zone. O'Reilly screamed into the radio, "Every man for himself. Make for exfil point Delta. Survive and get home." Benjamin ran north with 2 others, Corporal Gerald Morrison and Lance Corporal Thomas Caine. They moved fast, abandoning stealth for speed, running through the desert while bullets kicked up sand around them. Behind them, the sounds of combat, explosions, screaming, then gradually silence. They reached exfil point Delta 4 hours later. 3 men breathing hard, covered in sand and sweat. Morrison had taken shrapnel to his leg. Caine had a through and through in his shoulder. Benjamin was untouched. Lucky. That's what they called it, but it didn't feel like luck. They waited. Radio silent, listening for sounds of the rest of the squad. Nothing. The desert had gone quiet in that way it does after violence, like everything alive was holding its breath. The helicopter came at dawn, right on schedule. The pilot's voice crackled through emergency frequency. Exfil bird at Point Delta. Where's your squad? Benjamin looked at Morrison and Caine, looked back at the desert. Somewhere out there, 6 brothers were missing. Maybe dead, maybe captured, maybe fighting their way north. The pilot's voice again. I got Iraqi patrols closing on this position. You board now or I leave without you. 10 seconds. That's how long Benjamin hesitated. 10 seconds of looking at that desert, weighing options. Go back, maybe find them, probably die. Or board the helicopter, live, and carry the question for the rest of his life. Morrison was already climbing aboard, dragging his wounded leg. Caine followed. The helicopter's rotors were screaming, the pilot's hand on the throttle, ready to go. Benjamin Caine climbed aboard. As the helicopter lifted, he looked down through the door. Through the heat shimmer, he saw movement. Distant figures, maybe Iraqi forces, maybe his brothers. He'd never know. They flew west into the rising sun. 3 survivors out of 9. The rest declared missing in action, presumed dead. After 90 days, status changed to killed in action. Memorial services held, families notified. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus O'Reilly, age 30, Boston, Massachusetts. Corporal Jackson Williams, age 19, Louisville, Kentucky, wanted to be a teacher. Lance Corporal Miguel Santos, age 20, San Antonio, Texas, drew cartoons in his notebook. Private First Class Timothy Moore, age 18, Mobile, Alabama, read his Bible every night. Sergeant Frank Kennedy, age 28, Chicago, Illinois, twin daughters he never saw grow up. Corporal Raymond Johnson, age 21, Detroit, Michigan, best natural shooter in the platoon. Lance Corporal David Tran, age 17, lied about his age to enlist. First-generation American, parents fled communist regime in Southeast Asia. Died protecting the country that took his family in. Benjamin knew their names, their faces, their stories. He'd carried them for 33 years. Would carry them until the day his own heart stopped. The rifle was clean. He reassembled it, placed it back in the safe, locked the door. His coffee had gone cold. He poured it down the sink, rinsed the mug. The sun was fully up now. Time to start the day's work. He spent the morning repairing fence line on the eastern pasture. 30 head of cattle grazed his land, enough to keep the ranch operational without requiring hired help. He preferred working alone. Conversations required energy he didn't have. Small talk required pretending he cared about things that didn't matter. Weather, politics, sports, none of it was real. The only real things were the fence posts he was setting, the wire he was stringing, the ground that would still be here long after he wasn't. By noon, his hands were raw despite the gloves. He took a break, ate a sandwich he'd made that morning. Turkey and cheese on wheat bread, same lunch every day. Variety was overrated. People who needed constant novelty hadn't learned the value of routine. The work was good for him. Physical labor that made thinking difficult. Lift the post, dig the hole, set it level, tamp the dirt, string the wire, pull it taut, staple it down, move to the next post. The repetition was soothing. This was how you survived, one post at a time, one day at a time. Don't think about tomorrow, don't think about yesterday, just the post in front of you. He finished the fence line by 3 in the afternoon. His back was screaming now, the kind of ache that no amount of ibuprofen would touch. He ignored it. Discomfort was just sensation, your body telling you it was still working. The drive to town took 45 minutes on dirt roads that turned to mud when it rained. Ennis, Montana, population 800 and something, one main street, a handful of shops, more bars than churches. The kind of town where everybody knew everybody's business, which was why Benjamin came in as rarely as possible. He needed supplies, coffee, bread, basic staples. He parked his truck in front of Doc Henley's general store, the only place in town that sold groceries. The parking lot was empty except for Doc's ancient Chevy. Good. Fewer people meant fewer conversations. The bell above the door chimed as he entered. Doc looked up from behind the counter, face breaking into a smile. 58 years old, retired Army medic, Gulf War veteran himself. One of the few people Benjamin could tolerate being around. Right on schedule, Doc said. Sunday 3:15. You could set your watch by it. Benjamin nodded, grabbed a basket, started moving through the aisles. Doc didn't push conversation. That was one of the things Benjamin appreciated about him. They'd known each other 30 years, ever since Benjamin moved to Montana. They'd shared maybe 1,000 words total in all that time, but they understood each other in the way veterans did, the things that didn't need saying. Benjamin gathered his supplies, coffee, bread, eggs, bacon, simple food, fuel. He brought it to the counter. That'll be $42.50, Doc said. Benjamin paid in cash. Always cash. Credit cards left trails, and trails could be followed. Old habits from a different time, but some habits you kept. Doc bagged the groceries, then paused, reached under the counter, pulled out a newspaper. Put it on top of the bags. Thought you should see this, Doc said quietly. Benjamin looked down at the paper. Local section, a headline near the bottom. Former Marine found dead. 6 victims in suspected serial killings. He picked up the paper, scanned the article. Gerald Morrison, age 55. Former Marine, found dead at his ranch in Oregon last week. Single gunshot wound, long range. The article mentioned he was the 6th veteran killed in the past 8 weeks. All former Marines, all Gulf War era, all killed in similar fashion. Benjamin's hands were steady on the newspaper, but something cold was spreading through his chest. You knew him? Doc asked. Benjamin nodded slowly, served together. I'm sorry. Benjamin folded the paper, put it in the bag with the groceries. Is there a pattern in the victims? Doc's expression was grave. Far as anyone can tell, they all served in the same unit. 1st Recon Battalion, 1st Marine Division, 90 to 92. Benjamin's unit. The article lists the others. Doc pulled out a piece of paper from his shirt pocket. He'd already written down the names. That's how well he knew Benjamin. Knew he'd need the information. Benjamin took the paper. Read the names. Thomas Chen, Robert Williams, James Rodriguez, Paul Mackenzie, Daniel Kowalski. All names he recognized. All men he'd served with. Not from his sniper team, but from the same battalion. Men who'd been in the Gulf at the same time. 6 dead. If there was a pattern, if someone was targeting 1st Recon Battalion Marines from that era, then the math was simple and terrifying. How many more names are on this list? Benjamin asked. Doc shook his head. Don't know. But Shepard, if someone's hunting Gulf War vets from your unit, you need to be careful. Shepard, the nickname Doc had given him years ago after learning Benjamin ran a ranch and preferred isolation. A shepherd who'd lost his flock. It was more accurate than Doc knew. I'll be fine, Benjamin said. Doc didn't look convinced. You got a way to protect yourself? Benjamin almost smiled. Yeah, I got ways. He carried the groceries to his truck, loaded them in the passenger seat, sat behind the wheel but didn't start the engine. Just looked at the list of names again. 6 dead, all executed with precision, all from his battalion. Someone who knew their history. Someone who had access to military records. Someone who could shoot at range. Benjamin's mind was already working through the possibilities. Professional hit, revenge, some kind of vendetta related to the Gulf. He started the truck, pulled out of the parking lot. The drive home felt longer than usual. His eyes kept checking the mirrors, scanning the roads. Old instincts waking up. The part of him that had survived the desert by trusting nothing and watching everything. Back at the ranch, he unloaded the groceries mechanically, put them away in cabinets and refrigerator. Then he went to his study, a small room off the living room that he rarely used. He kept files here, records he wasn't supposed to have, mission reports he'd copied before leaving the service, after action reviews, personnel files, all of it technically classified, all of it probably illegal to possess. But he'd learned in the Gulf that official records had a way of disappearing, being redacted, being rewritten. If you wanted the truth, you kept your own copies. He found the file on Operation Desert Storm, specifically his unit's actions in February 1991, pulled it out, spread the papers across his desk, read through reports he'd read 100 times before, looking for something he'd missed. The mission had been classified top secret. Even now, 33 years later, most of it was still blacked out in official records. But Benjamin's copies were unredacted. He'd made them before the censors got to them. The target changed on February 10th. The new coordinates. The order had come from a CIA contractor. Call sign, Architect. No real name. Just a voice on the radio giving orders that got 6 Marines killed. Benjamin had tried to find out who Architect was. Spent years following dead ends. The CIA didn't keep records of contractors who officially didn't exist. Eventually, he'd given up. The war was over. The men were dead. Knowing wouldn't bring them back. But now, someone was killing veterans from his battalion. And maybe, just maybe, it was connected. He was still sitting at his desk when he heard the vehicles approaching. 2 of them, engines loud enough to hear from half a mile away. No one came out here unannounced. No one came out here at all. Benjamin went to the window. 2 black SUVs coming up his drive, kicking up dust. Government plates, federal agents. He could tell by the way they moved, the way they parked in formation rather than randomly. 4 people got out. 3 men in suits, 1 woman. The woman walked towards his house with authority. Federal agent, FBI probably, or something worse. Or Benjamin opened the door before she could knock. She was late 30s, sharp eyes, no nonsense expression, held up a badge. Mr. Caine, I'm Agent Sarah Vance, FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit. This is Deputy Marshal Tom Briggs. We need to talk to you about a matter of national security. Benjamin didn't move from the doorway, didn't invite them in. What matter? Vance's expression was serious. May we come inside? No, you can say what you need to say from there. Vance exchanged a glance with Briggs. The marshal was mid-40s, looked like he'd been military. Carried himself with that particular readiness. Mr. Caine, Vance said, we're investigating a series of murders. 6 victims so far, all Gulf War veterans, all former Marines. We have reason to believe you might be in danger. What reason? We found a list at one of the crime scenes, names of potential targets. Your name is on that list. Benjamin felt nothing, just a cold calculation. If his name was on a list, if someone was hunting battalion members, then the threat was real. But showing fear to federal agents was a mistake. Who's doing the killing? That's what we're trying to determine. But we need you to come with us. Protective custody until we can neutralize the threat. No, Vance blinked. Excuse me? I said no, I'm not going anywhere. Mr. Caine, this is serious. 6 men are dead. You could be next. Benjamin looked at her steadily. I've been next for 33 years, Agent Vance. Someone wants to come for me. They know where I am, but I'm not leaving my land. Briggs stepped forward. Sir, we can't protect you if you don't cooperate. I didn't ask for protection. Vance tried again. Mr. Caine, please understand, the person doing this is highly skilled, military trained, possibly special operations background. They're killing from long range, single shots, no witnesses. This isn't someone you can handle alone. Benjamin almost smiled. You'd be surprised what I can handle. Vance pulled out a folder, handed it to him. These are the victims. Take a look. Benjamin opened the folder. 6 photographs. 6 men he'd known. Not well, but he'd served alongside them. Shared mess halls. Shared firefights. The battalion had been big. Hundreds of men rotating through, but you remembered faces. Each photograph showed the victim as they were now. Or had been. Middle-aged men, some with families, living quiet lives until someone put a bullet in them from 600 meters away. Under each photo was a crime scene report. The details were consistent. Single shot, high-caliber rifle, long range, no shell casings found. Professional work. Someone who knew what they were doing. Someone like him. Do you recognize these men? Vance asked. I served with them, long time ago. Do you have any idea why someone would target your unit? Benjamin closed the folder, handed it back. Wars make enemies. Maybe someone's settling old scores. From 33 years ago? Hate doesn't have an expiration date, Agent Vance. Some people carry it their whole lives. Vance was quiet for a moment. Then she said, there's something else. The pattern of kills. It's following a timeline. One victim every 4 days. And the dates correspond to something. February 7th, February 11th, February 14th. Do those dates mean anything to you? Benjamin's face didn't change, but inside something clicked into place. February 7th, the day his team had inserted into Iraq. The dates were following the mission timeline, which meant whoever was doing this knew about that operation, knew details that were classified, knew things that only someone who was there would know, or someone who'd been told. Mr. Caine, Vance pressed, the next date in the pattern is November 18th, 2 days from now. We think that's when the killer will strike again. And based on the list we found, you're the next target. Benjamin looked past the agents at his land. The valley, the mountains, the ridge where Martha was buried. This was home. The only place he'd felt anything close to peace in 33 years. If someone wanted him dead, they could try. But he wasn't running. I appreciate you coming out here, he said. But I'm staying. You can leave now. Vance's jaw tightened. Mr. Caine, I can't force you into protective custody, but I strongly advise it. This person is dangerous. So am I. Briggs spoke up. Sir, we could station agents here. Set up a perimeter. No. No agents. No perimeter. You put federal presence on my property, you make it a target. I handle this my way. And what way is that? Vance asked. Mine. The agent stood there for another moment, clearly frustrated. Then Vance pulled out a business card, wrote something on the back, handed it to Benjamin. That's my direct line. If you change your mind, change your mind, or if you see anything suspicious, call me immediately. Benjamin took the card, knew he wouldn't use it. Vance turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing, Mr. Caine. The list we found, it's not complete. There are gaps, names that should be there but aren't, which makes us think the killer has specific targets, people involved in something particular, a specific mission or operation. If you know what that might be, it could help us stop this before anyone else dies. Benjamin said nothing. Vance nodded slowly, like she'd expected that. All right, you have my number. The agents got back in their SUVs, turned around, drove away. Benjamin watched until they disappeared down the road, dust settling in their wake. Then he went back inside, back to his study, back to the files. If the kills were following the February operation timeline, then the killer knew about that mission, and there were only a handful of people who could know those details. The three survivors, Morrison, Chen, and himself. Morrison was dead. Chen was dead. That left Benjamin. Unless there was someone else, someone who'd been there but wasn't on the official roster, someone who'd survived but never came home. Benjamin thought about that for a long time, thought about the 6 men who disappeared into the desert. Bodies never recovered. What if one of them hadn't died? What if Marcus O'Reilly had survived? It seemed impossible. The man had been declared dead in '91. There was a memorial for him at Arlington. His family had held a funeral. The military didn't make those kinds of mistakes. Except they did, all the time. And especially with men who went missing in denied territories, where officially no Americans ever operated in certain capacities. Benjamin stood up, paced his study. If O'Reilly had survived, if he'd been captured, held prisoner, eventually escaped, and if he blamed the 3 men who'd flown away and left him, that would be motive. That would be hate strong enough to last 33 years. He went to his file cabinet, pulled out another folder, personnel records for the sniper team, found O'Reilly's file, studied the photograph. A young man, hard eyes, square jaw. Iron O'Reilly, the strongest man Benjamin had ever known. What would 33 years as a prisoner do to a man like that? What would it turn him into? Benjamin was still holding the photograph when his phone rang. The landline, almost no one had that number. He picked up, silence on the other end. Not dead air, someone breathing. Then a voice, gravelly, jid but unmistakable. Hello, Shepard. Benjamin's hand tightened on the phone. That voice, he knew it. Hadn't heard it in 33 years, but he knew it. Marcus. The voice on the line made a sound that might have been a laugh. You remember. Good. That means you remember the others too. I remember. Do you? Morrison didn't. Chen didn't. They'd forgotten us. Dementia, old age, whatever excuse makes it easier. But they'd forgotten. Had to remind them who I was before I killed them. Benjamin's voice was steady. What do you want, Marcus? What I've wanted for 33 years, Justice. For what? Don't play dumb. You know exactly what. February 10th, 1991. You left us. You, Morrison, Chen, you ran while we died. That's not what happened. Then tell me what this happened, Shepard. Tell me how you made it to exfil and we didn't. Tell me how you flew away while I spent 22 years in an Iraqi prison being tortured. Tell me how that was anything but abandonment. Benjamin closed his eyes. We were scattered. Under fire. Orders were to make for exfil Point Delta. We followed orders. You followed orders. We fought. We held them off so you could escape. And our reward was being left behind. We didn't know you were alive. You were declared dead. Because no one looked for us. Because we were expendable. 9 men go in, 3 come out, close enough for government work. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not close enough for me. Benjamin opened his eyes. What are you going to do, Marcus? What I should have done 33 years ago. I'm coming for you, team. Not with FBI agents watching. Not with you hiding behind federal protection. Man to man, the way it should have ended. When? November 20th, sunrise. That ridge on your property, the one where you buried your wife. Bring your rifle. We'll settle this the old way. And if I don't come, then I'll burn your ranch to the ground with you in it. Either way you die. But if you face me, you die with honor. That's more than you gave us. The line went dead. Benjamin stood holding the phone for a long moment. Then he hung up, walked to the window, looked out at his land. November 20th, 2 days away. 36 hours to prepare. He thought about calling Agent Vance, thought about accepting federal protection, thought about running. Then he thought about Marcus O'Reilly, about Lucky Williams and Miggy Santos, and Preacher Moore and Bulldog Kennedy and Ray Johnson and Kid Tran. About 6 young men who died in a desert while he flew away. About a debt 33 years overdue. He walked to his gun safe, opened it, pulled out the M40A3, started cleaning it for the second time that day. Because in 36 hours, he was going to war one last time. And this time, there would be no flying away. Benjamin Caine didn't sleep that night. Sleep required letting your guard down, and his guard had been up since the phone call ended. He sat in the living room with all the lights off, M40A3 across his lap, watching the windows, watching the darkness outside push against the glass like it wanted in. The house settled around him with familiar creaks and groans, old wood expanding and contracting, the furnace kicking on every 40 minutes, sounds he'd learned to interpret over 30 years. Tonight he listened to them differently. Tonight every sound could be a footstep. Every shadow could be a man. Marcus O'Reilly was out there somewhere, alive. After 33 years of being dead, the man had risen like something from a nightmare. And he was coming. 2 days, 36 hours now. Time enough to prepare or time enough to run. Benjamin had made his choice the moment he hung up the phone. Running was for men who had something to lose. He'd lost everything that mattered a long time ago. What remained was just breath and heartbeat, and those could stop any time. At 3 in the morning, he gave up pretending he might sleep, made coffee, strong and black, drank it standing at the kitchen window, looking out at his land rendered silver by moonlight. 800 acres that he'd bought to escape the war, except the war had never left. It had just been waiting, biding its time. And now it was here, walking toward him, on legs that should have been bones in a desert grave decades ago. He thought about the phone call, the voice. It had been O'Reilly, he was certain. You don't forget the voice of a man who led you through hell. The accent was still there, Boston working class, but rougher now, eroded by time and whatever O'Reilly had endured in the years between then and now. 22 years in an Iraqi prison. That's what O'Reilly had said. 22 years as a prisoner. Benjamin tried to imagine it and couldn't. 3 days in captivity during training had nearly broken him. 22 years would turn a man inside out, would remake him into something else entirely. What walked toward him now wasn't Marcus O'Reilly. It was what was left after 33 years of hate had burned everything else away. The sun came up at 6:40. Benjamin watched it rise over the ridge, gold light spilling down into the valley, illuminating the frost on the grass. Beautiful. Martha's word. He still couldn't feel it, but he could recognize it now. That was something. He fed the horses, did his morning routine, kept everything normal because normal was a kind of armor. If you changed your patterns, you gave fear permission to dictate your actions. Fear was useful. Fear kept you sharp, but fear and control got you killed. At 8 o'clock, he drove into town. Doc Henley's store didn't open until 9, but Doc lived in the apartment above it and would be awake. Benjamin parked in the alley, climbed the back stairs, knocked. Doc answered in a bathrobe, reading glasses perched on his nose, took one look at Benjamin's face and stepped aside without a word. The apartment was small and cluttered, books everywhere, military history mostly. Doc had been reading about wars for 30 years, trying to understand the one he'd been part of. Benjamin understood that impulse. Coffee? Doc asked. Already had 3 cups, but yeah. Doc poured from a pot that smelled like it had been sitting since yesterday. Handed Benjamin a chipped mug. They sat at a small table by the window overlooking Main Street. Ennis was waking up. A few early risers, a delivery truck. Normal life continuing like the world wasn't about to end. You look like hell, Doc said. Feel worse. The list I gave you yesterday. The dead Marines. You know who's doing it? Benjamin nodded slowly. Yeah, I know. Doc waited. He was good at waiting. 30 years of medical work had taught him when to push and when to let silence do the work. Marcus O'Reilly, Benjamin said finally. My squad leader from the Gulf. Doc's eyebrows rose. Thought he was dead. So did I. Apparently we were wrong. And now he's killing the survivors. Not the survivors. The ones who made it out. There's a difference. Doc absorbed this. Took a sip of coffee. So what are you going to do? Benjamin told him about the phone call. The challenge. The duel on the ridge in 30 hours. Doc listened without interrupting. When Benjamin finished, the old medic was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, That's suicide. Maybe. No maybe about it. You're 53. How old is O'Reilly? 63. And he's been killing trained Marines for 2 months. Successfully. That tells you something about his condition. Tells me he's motivated. Tells me he's dangerous. And you're planning to face him alone on your own property where he'll have had time to scout the terrain and set up ambush positions. Benjamin shrugged. It's what he wants. What do you want? To end this. One way or another. Doc leaned back in his chair, studied Benjamin with eyes that had seen too many young men die and too many old men give up. You think you owe him this because you lived and he didn't. I think I owe him the truth, face to face. And if he still wants to kill me after that, at least it'll be honest. Honest, Doc shook his head. You know what's honest? Calling the FBI. Letting them handle it. That's honest. This Old West showdown fantasy is just you wanting to die without calling it suicide. Benjamin met his eyes, maybe. Doc sighed, stood up, walked to a closet, pulled out an old military footlocker, unlocked it. Inside were things Benjamin recognized: medical supplies, field dressings, trauma kits, the tools of keeping men alive in places designed to kill them. Doc pulled out a sat phone, encrypted military issue, the kind they weren't supposed to have, but lots of veterans did. He put it on the table. You take this. You get in trouble, you call me. I'll come running. You're 58 years old, Doc. And you're 53. We're both getting too old for this. But if you're going anyway, you don't go alone. Understand? Benjamin picked up the phone, felt the weight of it, the weight of friendship. He nodded. Doc wasn't finished. He pulled out something else from the footlocker. A pistol, Glock 19. Standard issue for modern military, but this one was older, worn, carried. Take this too. Rifle's fine for distance, but if he gets close, you need options. I've got weapons. Not like this one. This was my father's. Carried it in the Gulf. Saved his life twice. Maybe it'll save yours. Benjamin took the pistol, checked it automatically. Loaded, well-maintained. He looked at Doc. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just come back alive so I can tell you I told you so. They sat in silence for another minute. Then Benjamin stood, put the sat phone and pistol in his jacket pockets, shook Doc's hand. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. And Benjamin, whatever happened in that desert, whatever you think you owe O'Reilly, remember this. You survived. That's not a crime. That's not a sin. That's just what happened. Don't let him make you feel guilty for being alive. Benjamin walked down the stairs and back to his truck. The sun was higher now, the day warming up. November in Montana could go either way. Today felt like it might break 40 degrees. Good weather for a duel. He drove back to the ranch but didn't go to the house. Instead, he drove to the ridge, the place O'Reilly had specified for their meeting, the place where Martha was buried. He parked at the base and walked up. The ridge was a quarter-mile long, rising 300 feet above the valley floor. The eastern face was steep, almost a cliff. The western slope was gentler, the approach he'd just taken. At the highest point was a flat area about 30 yards across. That's where he'd buried Martha 10 years ago. The grave was simple, a headstone he'd carved himself from granite. Martha Caine, beloved wife and mother, 1958 to 2014. No fancy epitaph. She hadn't wanted one. Said the people who mattered would know what she meant to them, and the people who didn't wouldn't care about words on a stone. Benjamin stood at this grave for a long time. Hadn't been up here in months. Coming here hurt in ways he didn't have words for. Martha had been his anchor, the one person who'd seen past the walls he'd built and loved him anyway. When she died, part of him had wanted to climb into the ground with her. The only thing that stopped him was knowing she'd have been disappointed. I've got a situation, he said to the stone. Old friend from the war, coming to settle accounts. He wants to meet here. I'm sorry about that. I know you'd want this to be peaceful, but I don't have anywhere else to make a stand. The wind moved through the grass. No answer. He hadn't expected one. If this goes wrong, he continued, if I don't walk away from this, I want you to know I tried. Tried to live right, tried to honor your memory. Wasn't very good at it, but I tried. He placed his hand on the headstone, cold granite, unyielding. I miss you, he said, every damn day. Then he walked the ridge, studied it with tactical eyes. If he were O'Reilly, how would he approach this? The eastern cliff face was too steep for a direct assault. That left the western slope or the northern and southern ends, where the ridge tapered down to valley level. Western slope gave the best approach. Cover from rocks and scrub brush. Multiple positions for observation. O'Reilly would scout this, would find the best vantage points, would set up somewhere with clear lines of sight to the summit. Benjamin walked the perimeter, found 3 positions that offered good firing angles, marked them in his memory. If O'Reilly was smart, he'd use one of those. If he was very smart, he'd use all 3. Set up in one, shoot from another, escape through the third. But this wasn't about tactics. This was about honor. Old-fashioned, probably stupid honor. O'Reilly wanted a duel, man-to-man. That meant he'd show himself. Would give Benjamin a chance. Not out of mercy, but out of pride. You didn't survive 33 years of hate just to shoot someone in the back. Benjamin walked back to his truck as the sun reached its peak. He had 24 hours. That evening, Agent Sarah Vance came back. He saw her SUV coming up the drive at 6:30, alone this time. No other agents. That was interesting. Either she was breaking protocol or this wasn't official business. She parked and got out, walked to where Benjamin was sitting on his porch, watching the sunset. "Mind if I sit?" she asked. "Free country." She sat on the porch steps, didn't say anything right away, just looked out at the valley like she was trying to understand what he saw in it. "I checked you out," she said finally. "Your service record. What's not classified anyway?" Marine Scout Sniper, Gulf War 90 to 92, 76 confirmed kills, Silver Star, 2 Bronze Stars, Purple Heart. You were good at what you did. Was a long time ago. Some things you don't forget. She turned to look at him. "I also found reports on your unit's operations in February 91. Or tried to. Most of it's still classified. But the parts that aren't tell an interesting story. 9 Marines inserted behind Iraqi lines for a black op. 3 came back. 6 disappeared. Bodies never recovered." Benjamin said nothing. "You were one of the 3, Vance continued, along with Gerald Morrison and Thomas Chen. Both now dead, killed by a sniper who knows exactly what he's doing. Which brings me to my question, Mr. Caine. Do you know who's killing your unit?" Benjamin looked at her steadily. "Why does it matter? You can't stop him." "Try me. He's a ghost, Agent Vance. Been dead for 33 years according to official records. You can't arrest a ghost. But you know who it is. Suspicions aren't evidence." Vance leaned forward. "Here's what I think. I think one of those 6 men who disappeared didn't die. I think he survived somehow. Prisoner of war, maybe. Escaped years later. Came home to find the world had moved on without him. And now he's settling accounts with the men he blames for abandoning him. That's an interesting theory. It's more than a theory. We found something at the last crime scene. A playing card. Ace of Spades. Mean anything to you? Death card. Psychological warfare from the Gulf. Some units used to leave them on bodies. Exactly. Which suggests our killer has a very specific connection to that war. And to your unit. So I'll ask again, do you know who this is?" Benjamin was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "If I did know, what would you do?" "Bring him in. Get him help. He's a veteran. He's clearly suffering from trauma. There are programs, treatment, better options than letting him kill more people. And if he doesn't want help, then we stop him, by force if necessary." Benjamin shook his head. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. This isn't some PTSD case you can solve with therapy. This is a man who's been carrying hate for over 3 decades. That kind of hate doesn't respond to programs. So what does it respond to? Resolution." Vance studied him. "You're planning something. I can see it on your face." "I'm planning to stay alive." "By doing what? Facing him yourself?" "That's not resolution, Mr. Caine. That's mutual destruction." "Maybe that's all that's left." She stood up, frustrated. "I can't protect you if you won't let me." "I didn't ask for protection. 6 men are dead. You want to be number 7? I want this to be over. And there's only one way that happens. He comes for me, we settle it, and whoever walks away gets to live with what they've done. That's the deal." "That's not justice." "No," Benjamin agreed, "it's not. But it's all we've got." Vance walked to her SUV, stopped with her hand on the door, turned back. "The card we found. The Ace of Spades. It wasn't left at the crime scene. It was mailed to our field office. Before we even found the body. Like the killer wanted us to know he was coming. Wanted us to try and stop him. And on the back of the card there was a message. Handwritten. What did it say? November 20th. Sunrise, the Shepherd's Ridge. Witness the reckoning." Benjamin felt cold spread through his chest. "He's inviting you." "Not me. Anyone. He wants an audience. Wants someone to see what happens. Like this is theater. Like he's making a point." "What point?" "That debts get paid. That no one gets away. That time doesn't heal all wounds." Vance got in her SUV, rolled down the window. "I'll be there," she said. "On your property. Not to interfere, but to bear witness. And if he kills you, Mr. Caine, I'll make damn sure he doesn't walk away." She drove off into the gathering dark. Benjamin sat on his porch for another hour, thinking about witnesses and reckoning and the difference between justice and revenge. Thinking about 6 young Marines who died in a desert while he flew away. Thinking about Marcus O'Reilly spending 22 years in a cage because the helicopter hadn't waited. Thinking about Martha, about their son David, about the people he'd loved and lost and the ones he'd failed to save. The list was long, the guilt was heavy, and tomorrow on that ridge, he'd carry all of it one more time. At midnight, he went inside, laid out his gear, the rifle, ammunition, field glasses, rangefinder, the Glock from Doc, the sat phone, a knife, water, energy bars. Not that he expected to need food. This would be over quickly one way or another. He tried to sleep around 1 in the morning, laid in bed staring at the ceiling. His mind wouldn't stop working, calculating angles and distances, wind speed, temperature, all the variables that went into a long-range shot, all the ways this could go wrong. At 3:30, he gave up, got up, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table and wrote a letter to Doc, instructions for his property. The ranch would go to a veterans foundation, the horses to a rescue. His personal effects could be disposed of however Doc saw fit. Everything else was already handled. Will was filed with a lawyer in Bozeman, simple and clean. He sealed the letter, left it on the table. At 4 o'clock, he gathered his gear, loaded it into his truck, drove to the ridge in darkness. The night was clear, stars everywhere. No moon. That was good. Made it harder for anyone watching to see him move. He parked at the base of the ridge and began the walk up. Slow, careful, scanning constantly. He reached the summit at 4:45, set up his position near Martha's grave, prone behind a low stone wall he'd built years ago to mark the boundaries of her resting place. It gave him cover and a stable shooting platform. The rifle rested on its bipod. He arranged his gear within easy reach, then settled in to wait. The stars began to fade. The eastern sky turned from black to deep blue to pale gray. The world taking shape around him, the valley below, the mountains beyond, the vast Montana sky that seemed to go on forever. At 5:30, with dawn maybe 20 minutes away, he heard something. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, coming up the western slope. Benjamin's finger moved to the trigger guard. Not on the trigger, not yet, but ready. A figure emerged from the darkness. Tall, thin, moving with the careful steps of someone who'd walked through minefields. The figure stopped 50 yards away. "Hello, Shepard." The voice was the same as on the phone. Marcus O'Reilly, alive, real, standing there like he'd walked out of a grave. "Marcus, you're early. So are you." O'Reilly moved closer into the faint light. Benjamin could see him now through the scope. An old man, gaunt, scars visible even at this distance. One eye clouded, damaged, the other eye sharp, focused, a rifle slung across his back. "I could shoot you right now," O'Reilly said. "Then do it." "You're not afraid?" "I've been afraid for 33 years, Marcus. I'm tired of it. So shoot or talk. Either way, I'm done running." O'Reilly stood there, unmoving. Then slowly he unslung his rifle, laid it on the ground, kept his hands visible. "I didn't come to shoot you in the dark," he said. "That's not how this ends." "How does it end?" "With the truth. With you admitting what you did. I left you behind. I know. I've known for 33 years. O'Reilly's voice cracked. "You left us to die. We were under fire, scattered. Orders were to reach Exfil Point Delta. We followed orders. While we fought and bled and died so you could escape." Benjamin felt something break inside him, something he'd been holding together for over 3 decades. The truth. "You're right." The 2 words hung in the air. O'Reilly stared. "What?" "You're right. We abandoned you. Morrison, Chen, and me. We ran. We saved ourselves, and you paid the price." O'Reilly's hands were shaking. Finally you admit it." "I admit it. I've carried it every day. Every name. Every face. Lucky Williams, Miggy Santos, Preacher Moore, Bulldog Kennedy, Ray Johnson, Kid Tran, and you. I thought you were all dead, but I carried you anyway. Words don't bring them back. No, they don't. Nothing does. So what do you want from me, Shepard? Forgiveness? Absolution?" Benjamin lowered his rifle, stood up, stepped out from behind the stone wall, exposed, vulnerable. "I want you to know I'm sorry. God, Marcus, I'm so sorry. You were my brother. You led us through hell. And when you needed us most, we left. That's on me. That's my sin. And if you need to kill me to balance the scales, then do it. I won't stop you." O'Reilly pulled a pistol from his belt, aimed it at Benjamin's chest, 40 yards. Easy shot. "You think it's that simple? You say sorry and everything's okay?" "No, nothing about this is okay. Nothing about this will ever be okay. But I need you to know, I didn't forget. None of us did. Morrison died confused, but he remembered your names. Chen, too. We all carried you. Maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't change anything. But it's the truth. O'Reilly's hand was shaking harder now, the pistol wavering. 22 years, he said. 22 years they kept me in a hole in the ground. Iraqi intelligence. They tortured me for information I didn't have. Starved me, beat me. And you know what kept me alive? Hate. Pure, simple hate. Hate for the men who left me. Hate for the country that forgot me. Hate was all I had. It's all I've been for 33 years. Benjamin took a step forward, then another, walking toward the gun. Marcus, I can't give you back those years. Can't undo what happened. But I can offer you something. What? O'Reilly's voice was breaking. A place. Here. This ranch. It's quiet. It's safe. No one will look for you here. You can rest. Finally. Rest? O'Reilly laughed bitterly. I don't deserve rest. Neither do I, but maybe we deserve to try. The sun broke over the horizon, golden light flooding across the ridge, illuminating two old men, two warriors, two ghosts. O'Reilly's finger was on the trigger. Benjamin could see it tightening. Then a gunshot split the air. But it didn't come from O'Reilly. It came from the south, from the trees 400 meters away. O'Reilly staggered, looked down, blood spreading across his chest. He dropped to his knees. Benjamin was moving before he thought. Grabbed O'Reilly, pulled him behind the stone wall. Another shot rang out, impacted where O'Reilly had been standing. Sniper, Benjamin said, stay down. O'Reilly coughed blood, tried to speak. Don't talk. Save your strength. Benjamin grabbed the sat phone, keyed it. Doc, I need you. Ridge. Now. Gunshot wound. He didn't wait for a response. Grabbed his rifle, scanned the tree line. Another shot. This one hit the stone wall, chips of granite exploding. Professional. Long range, excellent position. Who the hell was shooting at them? O'Reilly grabbed Benjamin's arm. His voice was weak. I didn't come alone. What? I trained someone to finish my work. If I failed, you trained a sniper to kill me? To kill us both. Insurance. Couldn't let you live if I died, but I didn't think they'd turn on me. Another shot. Closer. This shooter was good, adjusting for wind and distance with each round. Benjamin keyed the sat phone again. Vance, if you're out there, we have a situation. Her voice came back immediately. I see it. Sniper in the south tree line. I'm moving to flank. Negative, too exposed. Stay put. I'm FBI, Mr. Caine. I don't take orders from you. The line went dead. O'Reilly was fading. The blood loss was severe. Benjamin pulled out a field dressing from his gear. Packed the wound. It wouldn't be enough, but it was something. Who is it? Benjamin demanded. Who did you train? O'Reilly's eye was closing. Voice barely a whisper. Never got a name. Just a promise. Finish what I started. Gender? Age? Anything? Young? Good? Better than me? Better than you? That's saying something. O'Reilly managed a weak smile. You were always cocky, Shepard. Confident. There's a difference. Another shot. This one hit 10 feet away. The shooter was walking rounds closer. Methodical, patient, the mark of someone who'd been well trained. Benjamin made a decision. He couldn't stay pinned here. O'Reilly needed medical help, and the only way to get it was to eliminate the threat. He grabbed his rifle, looked at O'Reilly. I'll be back. Where are you going? To do what I do best. O'Reilly grabbed his hand. Weak grip, but desperate. Don't leave me again. Benjamin felt those words hit him like a physical blow. He squeezed O'Reilly's hand. I'm not leaving you. I'm saving you. There's a difference. Then he was up and moving, low and fast, using the stone wall for cover, circled around the north side of the summit, began working his way down the ridge toward a position that would give him an angle on the tree line. A shot cracked past his head, close, too close. This shooter was tracking him, reading his movements, anticipating. Benjamin dropped into a depression, crawled 20 yards east, rose carefully, scanned through his scope. There, a flash of movement, 600 meters, someone repositioning. Benjamin settled his breathing, calculated windage, elevation. The shooter was good, but they'd made a mistake. Moved when they should have stayed still. He exhaled slowly, found the space between heartbeats, squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked. 600 meters away, a figure jerked. Hit, but not down. The figure turned, raised their rifle. Benjamin saw the muzzle flash, felt the impact. Not pain, not at first, just surprise. Like someone had punched him in the left shoulder. Then the pain came, white hot, radiating down his arm. He'd been shot. Benjamin rolled into cover, looked at his shoulder, through and through, clean, painful but not fatal, not immediately anyway. He grabbed the sat phone, voice tight with pain. Doc, change of plans, 2 gunshot wounds, maybe 3 depending on how the next 5 minutes go. Doc's voice was scared. Benjamin, where are you? Coming to you. Be ready. He tied a bandage around his shoulder one-handed. Not great work, but it would slow the bleeding. Then he repositioned, moved 50 yards south, set up again. The shooter hadn't moved, either wounded or waiting, trap or opportunity. Benjamin scanned carefully. There, a heat signature, someone prone in the brush. Rifle pointed in his previous direction. They hadn't seen him move. He had the shot. 700 meters now. Uphill, wind from the west. His shoulder screaming, blood running down his arm, making his grip slippery. This was it. Miss and the shooter would triangulate his position, make the kill shot. Don't miss. He breathed, found his center, became the thing he'd been in the desert. Not a man, a weapon. Cold, precise, inevitable. Fired. The figure in the brush went still. Benjamin waited. 10 seconds, 20, no movement. He'd either killed them or they were playing dead. Only one way to find out. He moved down the slope, rifle ready, shoulder burning, every step sending jolts of pain through his body, but he ignored it. Pain was just sensation. Reached the tree line, moved through the brush carefully, found the position, found the body. Young, maybe 30, female, Asian features, expensive gear, custom rifle, Barrett M82 50 caliber. The kind of weapon that could punch through walls. She was still breathing, barely. Benjamin's shot had hit her in the chest. Fatal, minutes left at most. Her eyes opened, focused on him. Who are you? Benjamin asked. She coughed blood, smiled weakly. Doesn't matter. Who sent you? Why are you doing this? Marcus, she coughed again. He saved me, gave me purpose. By teaching you to kill? By teaching me I mattered. That I could be more than what they made me. Who made you? Doesn't matter. She was fading. All that matters is I finish. Finish what? The mission. Kill the traitors. All of them. We didn't betray anyone. Her eyes were closing. You left them. They died. You lived. That's betrayal. That's war. Same thing. Benjamin knelt beside her, checked her pulse. She was gone. He sat back, looked at this young woman who'd been turned into a weapon, wondered what her story was, what pain or anger or loss had made her receptive to O'Reilly's hate, wondered if she'd had a choice or if the world had taken that from her too. He stood, walked back up the ridge. His shoulder was on fire, blood loss making him dizzy, but he kept moving. O'Reilly was where he'd left him, still breathing, barely. Benjamin collapsed beside him. 2 old men bleeding out on a ridge at sunrise. Is it done? O'Reilly whispered. It's done. The girl? Dead. Good. O'Reilly coughed. Couldn't let her finish. Couldn't let her become what I became. Why'd you train her then? Because I was angry. Because I wanted the world to hurt like I hurt. Because hate is easier than healing. Benjamin understood that, understood it completely. They sat in silence. The sun climbing higher, the valley below coming alive with morning light. I'm sorry, O'Reilly said, for all of it. For the killing, for the hate, for wasting 33 years on revenge that didn't make anything better. I'm sorry too, for leaving you, for not coming back, for living while you suffered. We're quite a pair. Yeah, we are. Sirens in the distance, getting closer. Doc was coming, maybe Vance too. Help was on the way, maybe too late, maybe just in time. O'Reilly's hand found Benjamin's, weak grip, fading. Shepherd, yeah, tell them. Tell our brothers. Tell them I remembered. Every day. Every name. I will. O'Reilly's eye closed, his breathing shallow. Benjamin held his hand. 2 old warriors on a ridge, the war finally ending. And for the first time in 33 years, Benjamin Caine allowed himself to cry. The sound of helicopter rotors cut through the morning air. Not the medevac kind. Military, fast and purposeful. Benjamin looked up from where he sat holding Marcus O'Reilly's hand, his own blood mixing with his old friends on the cold ground of the ridge. 2 Blackhawks came in low over the valley. Aggressive approach. These weren't rescue birds. These were tactical insertions. Someone had called in more than just Doc Henley. Agent Vance appeared from the western slope, pistol drawn, breathing hard. She took in the scene. 2 wounded old men, a critically wounded woman in the brush 50 yards away, blood everywhere. Jesus Christ, she said. Benjamin didn't respond. O'Reilly's breathing was shallow, irregular, each breath sounding like it might be the last. The helicopters landed in the valley below the ridge. Figures poured out. Not medical personnel, tactical teams, body armor, weapons. They moved up the slope with military precision. Vance keyed her radio. "This is Special Agent Vance, FBI. I have 3 wounded on site. Request immediate medical assistance." A voice crackled back. "Medical team is with us. Secure the area first." The first team reached the summit, 6 operators in full tactical gear. They fanned out, weapons raised, clearing the area like they expected more threats. The team leader approached, removed his helmet, Marine Corps insignia on his vest, gunnery sergeant, late 30s, hard eyes that had seen combat. "Sir," he said to Benjamin, "I'm Gunny Ross. We're here to extract you." "Extract me where?" "Secure location. Orders from the Pentagon. This situation is now classified." Benjamin almost laughed. Would have if his shoulder wasn't on fire and his friend wasn't dying in his arms. "I'm not going anywhere." "Sir, that's not a request." "Then it's not happening." Ross looked at Vance. She shrugged. "I already tried." He's stubborn. A medic pushed past them, knelt beside O'Reilly, started working. IV line, pressure bandages, professional and fast. Another medic came for Benjamin. "I'm fine," Benjamin said. "You've been shot, sir. You're not fine. It's a through and through. I've had worse." The medic ignored him, cut away his jacket, examined the wound, packed it with gauze, wrapped it tight. The pain intensified, but Benjamin didn't make a sound. Pain was just information. "He needs a hospital," the first medic said about O'Reilly. "Internal bleeding, maybe 30 minutes before he crashes." "Then get him to a hospital." "That's the plan, sir. Both of you." A stretcher team arrived, loaded O'Reilly carefully. He was unconscious now, face gray, breathing assisted by an oxygen mask. They carried him down the slope toward the helicopters. "What about the woman?" Benjamin asked. "The shooter in the trees." Another medic team was already working on her. One of them shook his head. "She's alive, but critical. We're taking her too." Benjamin stood, wavered. The blood loss was catching up to him. The medic grabbed his arm. "Sir, you need to lie down. I need to make sure he lives." "You can do that from a stretcher." Benjamin pulled his arm free, walked after O'Reilly's stretcher. Each step was harder than the last, but he kept moving. Stubborn. That's what Vance had called him. She wasn't wrong. At the helicopter, they were loading O'Reilly into the cargo bay. Benjamin climbed in behind him, sat on the bench seat. The medics tried to protest, but he gave them a look that ended the conversation. Vance climbed in, sat across from him. The helicopter lifted off, the ridge falling away below them. Martha's grave getting smaller, the place where everything had ended and maybe, possibly, started to heal. "Where are we going?" Benjamin asked over the rotor noise. "Billings," Vance said. "St. Vincent Hospital, trauma center, best in the state. And then we have a conversation about what happened here, about who that woman is, about what the hell Marcus O'Reilly has been doing for 33 years. He was surviving, same as me. By killing 6 innocent men? They weren't innocent. None of us were. We all made choices. We all lived with them." Vance leaned forward. "Mr. Caine, I understand you feel some kind of loyalty to O'Reilly, but he was a serial killer. He murdered veterans, good men with families. And he was a good man once too, before the war broke him, before we left him in a desert to die. You followed orders. That's not abandonment. Tell that to the man who spent 22 years in a cage." The helicopter banked, turned northeast, the Montana landscape spreading out below, mountains and valleys and rivers. Beautiful. Martha's word. Benjamin could almost feel it now. Almost. The medic working on O'Reilly looked up, shook his head slightly. "Not good news." "How long?" Benjamin asked. "If we're lucky, we make the hospital. If we're not, he goes into cardiac arrest in the next 10 minutes. Benjamin reached over, took O'Reilly's hand again, cold now, the warmth leaving him. "Come on, Marcus," he said quietly. "You survived 30 years of hell. Don't quit now." O'Reilly's eye flickered open. The good one. Focused on Benjamin with effort. "Shepard, save your strength. Need to tell you something. It can wait." "Number?" "Can't." O'Reilly coughed, blood on his lips. "The girl. She wasn't the only one." "What?" "Trained others. Before her. They're out there." "How many?" "Don't know. Lost count. Maybe 10. Maybe more." Benjamin felt ice in his stomach. "You created an army?" "Created weapons. Like me. Like you. People the world broke. Gave them purpose. By teaching them to kill? By teaching them they mattered." O'Reilly's grip tightened. "But I was wrong. Purpose built on hate isn't purpose. It's just more hate." "Where are they? These people you trained?" "Everywhere. Waiting for orders. If I die, they'll think the mission failed. They'll try to finish it. Finish what? Kill everyone on the list. Everyone who abandoned their brothers. Everyone who survived when others didn't. Benjamin looked at Vance. She'd heard it all. Her face was pale. How many names are on this list? She asked O'Reilly. 23. Veterans from my battalion. People who made it home while we died in that desert. We need that list, Vance said. O'Reilly shook his head weakly. Encrypted. Hidden. Only I know where. Then you need to tell us. Now. After, O'Reilly looked at Benjamin. First, Shepard needs to know. The truth about the mission. We know the truth. No, you know what you were told. You don't know why. The medic interrupted. Sir, he really needs to save his energy. Let him talk, Benjamin said. O'Reilly's breathing was labored. Each word an effort. The mission wasn't what they said. We weren't hunting Iraqi officers. Then what were we hunting? One of ours. A CIA contractor. Man named Richard Castellano. Benjamin felt the name hit him. He'd heard it before. In classified reports he wasn't supposed to have. Castellano had been investigated in '92 for selling intelligence. But the investigation had been buried. Castellano was dirty? Benjamin asked. Worse than dirty. He was selling American positions. Getting Marines killed for money. CIA found out. Couldn't prosecute him. Too embarrassing. So they sent us. 9 snipers. Deniable. No official record. Kill Castellano. Make it look like Iraqi action. But Castellano found out. He was the leak. Warned the Iraqis we were coming. They set the ambush. We walked right into it. Benjamin's mind was reeling. The mission that had haunted him for 33 years. The choice that had destroyed him. It had all been based on a lie. Why didn't you tell us? Benjamin asked. Why didn't you tell us what we were really doing? Orders. Need to know only. I knew. You didn't. Thought it would be easier that way. And after? After we escaped. Why didn't you come forward? Tell someone? Because Castellano was protected. Had friends in high places. If I'd talked, I'd have ended up in a hole somewhere. So I kept quiet. Did my time in that cage. And when I finally got out, Castellano was living like a king. Retired with honors, fat pension, while our brothers were rotting in unmarked graves. Where is he now? Jackson Hole, Wyoming, big estate, security, living the good life on blood money. O'Reilly's eye closed, his breathing more shallow. The medic was checking vitals. Blood pressure dropping, heart rate erratic. We're losing him. Stay with me, Marcus, Benjamin said. You don't get to die yet, not until this is finished. It is finished, O'Reilly's voice was barely a whisper. I got my revenge. Killed the men I blamed. Doesn't matter that I was wrong to blame them. The hate's still gone. That's something. You're not dying for revenge. You're living to make this right. Can't make it right. Too late. It's never too late. The helicopter was descending. Billings coming into view. The hospital, a cluster of buildings on the edge of the city. 2 minutes out. O'Reilly's hand went slack in Benjamin's grip. The medic was moving fast now. Chest compressions. Medications pushed through the IV, checking for pulse. Checking for response. He's in V-fib. I need to shock him. The medic pulled out defibrillator pads, placed them on O'Reilly's chest. Clear. The shock made O'Reilly's body jerk. The medic checked, shook his head. Again. Clear. Another shock, another check. We've got sinus rhythm, weak but there. The helicopter touched down on the hospital roof. A trauma team was waiting. They pulled O'Reilly out on the stretcher. Ran him inside. Benjamin tried to follow, but the medic held him back. Sir, you need treatment too. I need to know if he makes it. You will. But first, we stop you from bleeding out. They took him to a different bay. Emergency room. Bright lights and antiseptic smell. Nurses cutting away his clothes. Doctor examining the wound. Questions he barely heard. Answers he gave automatically. The bullet had gone through clean. No major vessels hit. Muscle damage, bone intact. Lucky. That word again. He was always lucky, except he didn't feel lucky. He felt tired. Tired in a way that had nothing to do with blood loss. They cleaned the wound, stitched it, bandaged it, gave him antibiotics and painkillers he wouldn't take. Put his arm in a sling and told him to rest. He sat in a recovery room and waited. Vance sat with him. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Finally, she broke the silence. Castellano, the name O'Reilly mentioned. I'm going to look into it. Don't bother. Why not? Because if what Marcus said is true, Castellano's got protection. High level. You start digging, you'll get shut down. Or worse. I'm FBI, I don't get shut down. You're FBI, you definitely get shut down, especially when it involves classified operations and embarrassing the agency. So what do you suggest? We let him walk? I didn't say that. Vance looked at him, really looked at him. What are you planning? Nothing you need to know about. Mr. Caine, if you're thinking about going after Castellano yourself, that's a felony. Premeditated murder. I can't let that happen. Then don't know about it. I already know about it. You just told me. No, you inferred. I'm just an old man recovering from a gunshot wound. What could I possibly do? A surgeon appeared in the doorway, scrubs still on, tired eyes. He looked at Benjamin. You're here for Marcus O'Reilly? Benjamin stood. How is he? Alive. Barely. The next 72 hours are critical. He's lost a lot of blood. The bullet nicked his liver. We've repaired what we can, but there's significant damage. If he survives the night, his odds improve. But it's going to be close. Can I see him? He's in ICU, sedated. Not conscious. But yes, 5 minutes. The surgeon led them through corridors, up an elevator, through double doors marked intensive care. O'Reilly was in a room by himself. Tubes and wires everywhere. Machines beeping, breathing for him, keeping him alive. Benjamin stood at the bedside. This old warrior. This broken man. This brother he'd thought dead for over 3 decades. Alive. Still fighting. He pulled a chair close, sat down despite the protest from his shoulder. Took O'Reilly's hand. I'm here, Marcus. I'm not leaving. Not this time. Vance stood in the doorway, watching, not interfering. You need to make it, Benjamin continued quietly, because there are things we need to do, people we need to stop, a debt we need to settle. You don't get to quit now. You survived 22 years in hell. You can survive this. The machines beeped their steady rhythm. O'Reilly didn't respond, but his hand was warm, his heart was beating. He was still here. A nurse came in. Time's up, she said gently. Benjamin stood, squeezed O'Reilly's hand once more. I'll be back. Outside the ICU, Vance was on her phone, talking to someone in hushed, urgent tones. She hung up when she saw Benjamin. That was my director, she said. The Pentagon is demanding custody of O'Reilly. They want him transferred to a military facility as soon as he's stable. He's not going anywhere. It's not your call. He's my responsibility. I'm not letting them disappear him. Mr. Caine, Marcus O'Reilly is wanted for 6 murders. He's going into federal custody one way or another. Then let him recover first. Let him live long enough to tell his story, the real story, about Castellano, about why the mission went wrong, about what the CIA did to those 9 Marines. Vance was quiet for a moment. You know they'll bury it, classify everything, redact the reports. No one will ever know the truth. I'll know, and that'll have to be enough. Will it? Because from where I stand, you're planning something, and whatever it is, it's not going to end well. Benjamin met her eyes. Maybe not, but it'll end. That's all I'm asking for. An ending. She shook her head, frustrated. I can give you 48 hours. After that, federal marshals are taking O'Reilly. And probably you, too. They're calling this a national security issue. Black ops gone wrong. They'll want statements, depositions, and if they think you know too much, they'll make sure you can't talk. Let them try. You're not bulletproof, Mr. Caine. No, but I'm hard to kill. He walked away before she could respond, out of the hospital, into the cold November air. It was afternoon now, the sun already starting its descent toward the mountains. Days were short this time of year. Darkness came early. Doc Henley was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against his old Chevy. He straightened when he saw Benjamin. You look like hell, Doc said. Feel worse. Did he make it, O'Reilly? For now. And the girl? Critical condition. Different floor. She might not make it either. Doc nodded slowly. Processing. You okay? Define okay. Fair point. Doc opened the passenger door. Get in. I'm taking you home. Can't go home. Not yet. Where then? Benjamin thought about it. About Castellano living in luxury in Wyoming. About 23 veterans on a kill list. About trained killers waiting for orders from a man who might not survive the night. About justice delayed for 33 years. Wyoming, he said. Doc stared at him. You're not serious. Dead serious. Benjamin, you've been shot. You need rest. Recovery. Not a road trip to commit murder. Who said anything about murder? Your face, your voice, everything about you screams, I'm about to do something stupid. Not stupid. Necessary. There's a difference? Sometimes. Doc sighed, pulled keys from his pocket, tossed them to Benjamin. You're a stubborn son of a bitch, you know that? Been told. Fine, we go to Wyoming. But I'm driving. You're in no condition. We? You think I'm letting you do this alone after everything? We're brothers, Shepard. Gulf War or not. That means something. Benjamin felt something in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years. Gratitude. Connection. The knowledge that he wasn't as alone as he thought. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Wait until we see if we survive. They drove south, out of Billings, toward the Wyoming border, the sun setting behind them, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, like fire, like blood, like every sunset Benjamin had watched from that ridge where Martha was buried. Jackson Hole was 4 hours away. They'd arrive after dark. Good. Darkness was when old snipers worked best. Doc drove in silence for the first hour. Then he said, "You have a plan? Working on it?" That's not encouraging. Plans are overrated. Mostly they just get you killed. Better to adapt, respond, survive. That your philosophy? That's my experience. Well, your experience has you shot and driving to confront a CIA contractor. Maybe time to reconsider the philosophy. Benjamin almost smiled. Maybe. They stopped for gas in Red Lodge. Small town, quiet. The kind of place where strangers got noticed but no one asked questions if you minded your business. Benjamin went inside to pay, grabbed coffee and energy bars, fuel for the road ahead. A television in the corner was showing news. Breaking story about a shooting in Montana. 3 critically wounded. FBI investigating. Possible connection to serial killings of veterans. Reporter saying authorities were seeking a person of interest for questioning. Benjamin's photo appeared on screen. Old service photo, younger face, harder eyes. The clerk behind the counter looked up at the TV, looked at Benjamin, back at the TV. Benjamin met his eyes, didn't blink, didn't run. The clerk was old, 60 maybe, veteran himself probably. He looked at Benjamin for a long moment, then he looked away. "That'll be $42, the clerk said. Benjamin paid, walked out. Doc was pumping gas. "We need to move," Benjamin said. "They've got my photo on the news. How much of a head start we got? Maybe an hour before someone calls it in. Then we better make it count." They drove faster now, pushing the speed limit. Not reckless, but urgent. The landscape blurring past, darkness settling over the mountains. Benjamin's phone rang. The sat phone Doc had given him, he answered. It was Vance. "Where are you?" she asked. "Somewhere." That's not an answer. "It's the only one I've got." "Mr. Caine, the Pentagon is looking for you. So is the FBI. Your photo is all over the news. If you're planning what I think you're planning, you need to stop." "Can't do that." "Then you're going to get yourself killed. Or worse, arrested. And once they have you, you'll never see daylight again. Is that what you want?" "I want the man responsible for getting my brothers killed to face justice." "The courts can handle that." The courts had 33 years. They did nothing. Because there's no evidence. It's all classified. Buried. You go after Castellano, you're just proving their point. That you're dangerous. That you need to be locked up. Maybe I am dangerous. Maybe. But you're also a good man. Don't let hate turn you into what O'Reilly became. O'Reilly's not the monster here, Agent Vance. The monster is the man who sold out American Marines for profit. The man who's been living in luxury while boys died in deserts. That's the monster, and monsters don't stop until someone stops them. He hung up. Doc glanced over. "You're burning bridges. Never liked bridges anyway. Too easy for people to follow you across." They crossed into Wyoming an hour later, the landscape changing, more mountains, deeper valleys, the kind of terrain where a man could disappear if he wanted to, or make a stand if he had to. Jackson Hole was nestled in a valley surrounded by the Tetons. Rich people's playground, ski resorts, expensive homes, the kind of place where a retired CIA contractor with blood money could blend right in. They found Castellano's estate on the north side of town. Big, modern, glass and steel and money. Set back from the road behind gates and walls. Security cameras visible. Guard shack at the entrance. Doc drove past slowly. Didn't stop. Didn't stare. Just another car passing through. "What do you think?" he asked. "I think it's a fortress. You think we can get in?" "We got in tighter places in the war." They parked a mile away, overlooking the valley. Benjamin pulled out binoculars, studied the estate, looked for patterns, weaknesses, ways in that didn't involve the front gate. There, a service road leading around the back, probably for deliveries, less security, maybe. Doc was watching him. "You know this is insane, right? Define insane. Old men with gunshot wounds infiltrating a fortified position to confront a man protected by private security and federal connections. When you put it that way, it does sound questionable. Questionable. That's one word for it. Benjamin lowered the binoculars. What would you call it? Suicide. Maybe, but I've been dying inside for 33 years. This way, at least it means something. Doc was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into the back seat, pulled out a rifle case, opened it. Inside was a hunting rifle, Remington 700. Good weapon, reliable. I'm not letting you do this alone, Doc said. If you're going in, I'm providing overwatch. You don't have to do this. Yeah, I do. Because you're my friend, and friends don't let friends commit suicide without backup. Benjamin looked at this 58-year-old medic turned shopkeeper. This man who'd seen war and come home and built a quiet life, now willing to throw it all away to help an old soldier settle a decades-old debt. Why, Benjamin asked. Doc met his eyes. Because some debts are worth paying, and some men are worth dying beside. They waited until midnight. The estate's lights dimmed. Security patrols visible but predictable. 3 guards, 2-hour rotations, standard corporate security, good against burglars, not so good against trained Marines. Benjamin moved through the darkness like he was 20 again. Slow, careful, every sense alert. The gunshot wound in his shoulder throbbed, but he ignored it. Pain was just information. He reached the service road, followed it around the back of the estate, found a spot where the wall was lower. 12 feet. Used to be easy. Now it required every ounce of strength he had left. He climbed, slow, methodical, reached the top, dropped down inside. Estate grounds, manicured lawn, garden paths, soft lighting, peaceful, serene, built on bones and blood. The main house was 100 yards ahead. Lights on in a second-floor window. Someone awake, working late or couldn't sleep. Either way, it was time. Benjamin moved toward the house, staying in shadows, avoiding the security cameras by angles he'd memorized. Old skills, old training, the kind that lived in muscle memory. He reached the house, found a door, service entrance, locked but not seriously. 2 minutes with tools from his pocket and it clicked open. Inside was kitchen, dark, empty. He moved through it, into a hallway, towards stairs leading up. That's when the alarm went off. Silent alarm, no sound. But he knew. The way the air changed, the way his instincts screamed danger. He'd been made. Footsteps above, running, coming toward him. Benjamin drew the Glock Doc had given him, moved to cover, behind a wall, waiting. A guard appeared. Young, professional, weapon drawn. He moved carefully, training evident. Benjamin let him pass. Came up behind, put the Glock to his head. Don't move. The guard froze. How many others? Benjamin asked. 2 more. Plus Mr. Castellano. Where's Castellano? Office, second floor, end of hall. You're going to call them off. Tell them false alarm. You check the door. Just when? Can you do that? The guard hesitated. Benjamin pressed the Glock harder. Can you? The guard keyed his radio. This is Mitchell. False alarm on the service door. Just one. Stand down. A voice crackled back. Copy. Resuming patrol. Good. Now sleep. Benjamin hit him with the pistol. Not hard enough to cause permanent damage. Just enough to put him out. The guard crumpled. Benjamin caught him, lowered him quietly. Then he moved to the stairs. Second floor was quiet, long hallway, doors on both sides, light coming from under one at the far end. Benjamin walked toward it. Each step measured, controlled. This was it. The moment 33 years in the making. He reached the door, opened it. Inside was an office, expensive books, artwork, desk made of wood that probably cost more than Benjamin's truck. Behind the desk sat a man, 67 years old according to the files. But he looked good, healthy, well-fed, the benefits of money and guilt-free living. Richard Castellano looked up, saw Benjamin, saw the gun. He didn't seem surprised. I've been expecting you, Castellano said. Have you? Ever since I heard about the killings. I knew someone would figure it out eventually. Knew someone would come. Then you know why I'm here. To kill me. For what happened in the desert. For the men who died. Benjamin raised the Glock, aimed at Castellano's head. They deserve better than you gave them. Everyone deserves better than they get. That's life. That's betrayal. Castellano leaned back in his chair. Casual, unafraid. You going to shoot me? Do it. But understand something first. I didn't betray those men. I saved American lives. By selling intelligence to the enemy? By ending a war that couldn't be won. Every position I gave them, every operation I compromised, It shortened the conflict, saved thousands of American lives in the long run. 9 Marines died because of you. 9 Marines died because they were sent on an illegal operation. I didn't pull that trigger. The people who sent them did. Benjamin's finger tightened on the trigger. You're a traitor. I'm a pragmatist. There's a difference. Not to the men who died. Castellano stood, walked to the window, looked out at the valley below. Did O'Reilly send you? Before he died? He's not dead. Not yet. But soon, and when he goes, this all goes with him. Ancient history, no one cares anymore. I care. You're the last one. And when you're gone, it's over. Forgotten. Like it never happened. Benjamin moved closer, gun still raised. That's why I'm here. To make sure it's not forgotten. By killing an old man? That doesn't honor anyone. It just makes you a murderer. I've been a murderer since I was 20. One more name won't change anything. Castellano turned, faced him. Go ahead then. Pull the trigger. But know this. I've got protection. People in high places. You kill me, they'll hunt you down, lock you away, erase you. Everything you've done, everything you've survived, it'll mean nothing. It already means nothing. Benjamin's hand was steady. The shot would be easy. Center mass, 30 feet. Couldn't miss. But he hesitated. Not out of mercy, out of the sudden realization that Castellano was right. Killing him changed nothing. Didn't bring back the dead. Didn't undo the betrayal. Just added one more body to a pile that was already too high. You can't do it, Castellano said. Can you? Because you're not like O'Reilly. You're not consumed by hate. You're just tired. And tired men don't kill in cold blood. Benjamin lowered the gun. Castellano smiled. Smart choice. But Benjamin wasn't done. He pulled out his phone, started recording. What are you doing? Getting your confession on record. Everything you just said about selling intelligence. About the operation. About what you did. That's not admissible. It's coerced. Don't need it for court. Just need it for the truth. So people know. So the families know. So history remembers what kind of man you were. Castellano's smile faded. No one will believe you. They'll call it fake. Manipulation. Maybe. But I'll still post it. Every news outlet, every social media platform. Your name, your face, your confession. You might have protection, but you won't have peace. For whatever time you have left, you'll live knowing the world knows what you are. You'll go to prison for breaking in here. Probably. But you'll spend the rest of your life explaining why a decorated Marine felt the need to break in and record your confession. That's a story that'll follow you to your grave. Castellano sat down, suddenly looking every one of his 67 years. You're making a mistake. I've made plenty. This isn't one of them. Benjamin backed toward the door. Gun still ready. Phone still recording. Footsteps in the hallway. Heavy. Fast. The other guards responding. Benjamin moved. Fast. Back down the hall, down the stairs, toward the service door. Guards shouting behind him, coming after him. He made it outside, ran across the lawn, slower than he wanted, the wound slowing him down. But running, still alive, still moving. Gunshots. Behind him. Bullets hitting grass. Close. He reached the wall, started climbing, shoulder screaming, blood soaking through his bandage. Hands grabbed him from the other side. Doc. Pulling him up. Over. Down. They ran to the truck. Climbed in. Doc started the engine. They peeled out. Tires throwing gravel. Behind them, guards at the gate. Shouting, aiming, but not shooting. Not at a fleeing vehicle on a public road. Too many witnesses. Too many questions. Doc drove fast, putting distance between them and the estate. Neither man speaking. Just breathing. Hearts pounding. Alive. 5 miles out, Doc pulled over. Looked at Benjamin. Did you do it? Did you kill him? No. Why not? Because killing him wouldn't bring them back. Wouldn't fix anything. But exposing him might. Benjamin held up his phone. The recording's still there. Castellano's voice clear, admitting everything. What are you going to do with that? Give it to someone who can use it. Make sure the world knows the truth. Doc nodded slowly. You did the right thing. Did I? I'm not sure anymore. They drove through the night, north toward Montana, toward home. The recording in Benjamin's pocket felt heavier than any rifle he'd ever carried. Heavier and somehow more important. They made it back to Montana as the sun was rising. Benjamin sat in the passenger seat watching the landscape turn from black to gray to gold. Every mile felt like borrowed time. Every minute felt like the last one before everything came crashing down. His shoulder was bleeding again. The climb over Castellano's wall had torn the stitches. Doc had noticed but said nothing. What was there to say? They were both too old for this, both too broken, but they'd done it anyway because some things mattered more than good sense. The recording sat in Benjamin's pocket. Hours of Castellano's voice, admissions, justifications, confessions wrapped in rationalizations. It was enough, more than enough. But getting it to the right people without ending up in a federal cell was going to be the hard part. Doc pulled off the highway at a rest stop, empty at this hour. Just long-haul truckers sleeping in their cabs and the occasional early morning traveler. They parked away from the lights, in the shadows. "We need a plan," Doc said. "Working on it. Work faster. FBI is probably tracking your phone. Credit cards, everything. We've got maybe an hour before they figure out where we are." Benjamin pulled out the sat phone. It was encrypted, but encryption only went so far when the Pentagon wanted to find you. He made a call anyway. Agent Vance answered on the second ring. "Where are you?" she demanded. "Somewhere safe." That's not an answer. "It's the only one you're getting. I need your help." "My help?" "Mr. Caine, you're a fugitive. You broke into a private residence, assaulted security personnel. The entire federal government is looking for you." "Then stop looking and start listening. I've got proof about Castellano, about what he did, about why those Marines died." "What kind of proof?" "A confession. Recorded. His own words admitting he sold intelligence. Admitting he compromised the mission. Everything." Silence on the line, then. "How did you get that?" "Does it matter?" "It matters if you tortured it out of him. If you coerced it. That makes it inadmissible." "I didn't torture anyone. I asked questions." He answered. "Maybe he thought I'd kill him if he didn't. Maybe he was right, but I didn't touch him. The recording will show that." "Send it to me." "Not yet. First, I need guarantees." "You're not in a position to negotiate. Neither are you. You want justice for those 6 dead Marines? You want the truth about what happened in '91? Then you need this recording. And I need assurances that O'Reilly doesn't disappear into some black site, that he gets medical care, that when this is over, the real story comes out." Vance was quiet for a moment. Then, "I can't promise that. It's above my pay grade." "Then find someone whose pay grade it isn't. That could take time. Time's the one thing we don't have." Another pause. "All right, I'll make calls. But you need to come in, turn yourself over. Let me protect you." "Can't do that." "Why not?" "Because the moment I'm in custody, this recording disappears. Gets classified, buried. You know it, and I know it. The only leverage I have is staying free long enough to make sure this gets out. You can't run forever." "Don't need forever. Just need a few more hours." He hung up. Doc was watching him. "That went well. About as expected. So what now?" "Now we go back to the hospital. Check on Marcus. Make sure he's still breathing. And I need to talk to someone else." "Who?" "The woman. The shooter from the ridge, if she's still alive." They drove to Billings, arrived just after 8 in the morning. The hospital parking lot was full of morning shift workers. Visitors. Normal people living normal lives. Not old men on the run from federal agents. Benjamin pulled up the hood of his jacket, kept his head down. They walked through the main entrance like they belonged there, past security without a second glance, up the elevator to intensive care. Marcus O'Reilly was still in his room, still connected to machines, but the monitors showed improvement. Heart rate stronger, blood pressure stabilizing. He was winning the fight, for now. A nurse was checking his vitals. She looked up when Benjamin and Doc entered. "Family?" she asked. "Brothers," Benjamin said. "From the war." The nurse smiled sadly. She probably heard that before. From old men visiting old friends, warriors checking on warriors. "He's doing better," she said. "Came out of sedation an hour ago. Been in and out since. Doctor says if he makes it through today, his odds are good." "Can we sit with him?" "Of course, just keep it quiet. He needs rest." She left them alone. Benjamin pulled a chair to the bedside, sat down despite the protest from his wounded shoulder, took Marcus's hand. The old Marine's eye flickered open, the good one, focused on Benjamin with effort. "You came back," Marcus whispered. "Told you I would. Thought you'd be in jail by now." "Working on it. But I had something to do first." "Castellano?" Benjamin nodded. "Got his confession. On record. The whole truth." "Did you kill him?" "No." "Why not?" "Because you were right. Hate doesn't fix anything, just makes more hate. So I chose truth instead." Marcus's grip tightened slightly. "Truth. Been avoiding that for 33 years. "Yeah, me too." They sat in silence. Two old warriors. Two men who'd survived when others hadn't. Two brothers bound by blood and guilt and the weight of choices made over 3 decades ago. The others, Marcus said finally, the ones I trained, you need to stop them. How? Find Emma Chen. She was one of them. The first one. If anyone knows where the others are, it's her. Emma Chen. The woman who tried to kill them both on that ridge. The woman Benjamin had shot. She's here, Benjamin said. In this hospital. Critical condition. I need to talk to her. Marcus's eye closed briefly, then opened. She'll talk to you. She respected you, even when she was trying to kill you. Said you reminded her of her father. What do I tell her? Tell her the truth, that I was wrong, that the hate I taught her was poison, that she can still choose a different path before it's too late. And if she doesn't listen, then stop her, by whatever means necessary. Can't let my mistakes keep killing people. Benjamin stood, looked at Doc. Stay with him. Make sure nothing happens. Where are you going? To talk to a killer. He found Emma Chen's room 2 floors down. Also in intensive care but under guard. A deputy marshal sat outside the door, young, alert, hand near his sidearm. Benjamin walked up like he belonged there, confident, calm. I'm here to see the patient, he said. The marshal looked him over. Family? Attorney. She requested to see me. The marshal checked a list on his clipboard. I don't have you listed. Call Agent Vance, FBI, she'll confirm. It was a bluff. But sometimes bluffs worked if you sold them hard enough. The marshal hesitated, pulled out his phone, started to dial. Benjamin's own phone rang. The sat phone, he answered. It was Vance. I just got a very confused call from a deputy marshal asking if you're Emma Chen's attorney. I need 5 minutes with her, alone. That's not happening. It has to happen. She's the key to finding the others. The killers Marcus trained. If I don't get to her first, people are going to die. Then let me do it. Officially. Through proper channels. By the time proper channels work, those killers will have scattered. This is our one chance. Why would she talk to you? You shot her. Marcus says she'll listen. Says I remind her of her father. Vance was silent. Then 5 minutes. That's all I can give you. And Benjamin, if this goes wrong, I can't protect you. Never asked you to. The line went dead. 30 seconds later, the marshal's phone rang. He answered, listened, looked at Benjamin with new suspicion, but stepped aside. 5 minutes, he said. Benjamin entered the room. Emma Chen was awake, propped up in bed, bandages across her chest where Benjamin's bullet had struck, tubes and monitors, but conscious, eyes clear and hard. She looked at him without surprise. Came to finish the job, she asked. Came to talk. Talking won't change anything. Maybe not, but it's worth trying. Benjamin pulled a chair close, sat down. His shoulder was throbbing, blood seeping through his jacket, but he ignored it. Marcus is upstairs, he said. He's going to live. Good. Emma's voice was flat, emotionless. He deserves to live, to see what he created. What did he create? Weapons? Like me. People who were broken and angry, and he gave us purpose. Gave us targets. Told us we mattered. You do matter. No, we're just tools, instruments of someone else's hate. When he dies, we'll still be out there, waiting, killing, because that's all we know how to do. It doesn't have to be that way. Yes, it does. You can't undo what we are. Benjamin leaned forward. I spent 33 years thinking the same thing. That the war made me into something I couldn't change. That the killing defined me so that I'd never be anything but a weapon. But I was wrong. People can change, can choose to be more than what broke them. Easy to say when you're not the one trained to kill. I am the one trained to kill. 76 confirmed kills. Probably more I don't know about. I've got more blood on my hands than you'll ever have. But I'm still here, still trying to be something other than what the war made me. And how's that working out? You broke into a man's house, held him at gunpoint. You're a fugitive. Doesn't sound like you've changed much. Maybe not. But I'm trying, and that's more than I was doing a week ago. Emma looked away, out the window, at the Montana sky. Marcus told me about you, she said quietly. About the helicopter, about leaving them behind. He hated you for that, wanted you dead more than anything. But then something changed. After he called you, after he challenged you to that duel, he started having doubts. Doubts about what? About whether you were really the enemy, whether hate was worth holding on to. He never said it out loud, but I could tell. He was tired of carrying it. And when you didn't kill him on that ridge, when you tried to save him instead, it broke something in him. Or maybe fixed something. He's trying to make it right. Stop the killing he started. Too late for that. The others are already moving. Targets selected, operations planned, it's in motion. Then help me stop it. Why would I do that? Because Marcus asked me to ask you. Because he knows you're better than what he made you. Because there's still time to choose something different. Emma looked at him, really looked at him, searching for something in his face. My father was a Marine, she said, served in the Gulf War. Same conflict as you and Marcus. Came home different, angry, violent. Eventually he couldn't take it anymore. Ate his gun when I was 15. Left me with questions I couldn't answer. Why he did it, why he couldn't get help. Why the war took more from him than he had to give. I'm sorry. Marcus found me 10 years later. I was lost. Angry at the world, at the military, at everyone who sent people to war and didn't care what it did to them. He understood that anger, shaped it, gave me skills, told me I could make the people responsible pay. And now? Now I don't know, killing Morris and Chen, the others, it didn't make me feel better. Didn't bring my father back. Didn't fix anything. Just made me into the thing I hated. A killer without a cause. A weapon without a purpose. So choose a new purpose. Like what? Like helping me stop the others before more people die. Like using what Marcus taught you to save lives instead of taking them. Like proving your father's sacrifice meant something by being better than the war that broke him. Emma was quiet for a long time, then she said, there are 9 others, spread across the country. Each one has a target, all scheduled to hit within the next 72 hours. Who are they targeting? Veterans, officers, politicians, anyone Marcus blamed for the war, for the lies, for the men who died. Can you call them off? No, they don't answer to me. They answer to Marcus. And with him in a hospital bed, they'll assume the mission goes forward as planned. Then we need to find them. Stop them before they strike. Emma reached for her phone on the table beside her bed. The marshal had left it there, probably monitored but still functional. She unlocked it, pulled up a file. These are their names, locations, targets, everything Marcus kept on them. She handed the phone to Benjamin. He scrolled through, 9 names, 9 backgrounds, all broken people Marcus had found and weaponized, all waiting to kill in his name. Why are you giving me this? Benjamin asked. Because you're right. I can choose something different. And maybe that starts with stopping what I helped create. The door opened. Agent Vance walked in, 2 federal marshals behind her. She looked at Benjamin, at Emma, at the phone in Benjamin's hand. Time's up, she said. Mr. Caine, you need to come with me. Not yet. We've got 9 killers about to strike. I need time to stop them. That's not your job. That's ours. You don't have time. They move in the next 3 days. By the time you mobilize, coordinate, get approvals, people will be dead. Then tell me who they are, where they are. We'll handle it. Benjamin looked at Emma. She nodded slightly. Permission given. He handed Vance the phone. She scrolled through, face getting paler with each name. Jesus. Half of these are high-value targets. Congressmen, generals. This isn't just revenge. This is terrorism. This is pain turned into violence, Benjamin said. People who were broken by war and never got help. Marcus gave them an outlet. Now we need to stop them before they use it. Vance was already on her radio, calling for backup, coordinating, setting things in motion. Benjamin stood to leave. Vance grabbed his arm. Where do you think you're going? To help. You're under arrest. Then arrest me after. Right now you need me. I know how these people think, how they operate. I can help find them. You can also get in the way. Get yourself killed. Get my agents killed. Maybe. But I'm going anyway. You can waste time arresting me, or you can use me to save lives. Your choice. Vance stared at him, frustrated, calculating. Then she made a decision. You stay with me. You follow my orders. You don't go cowboy. Understood? Understood. She turned to the marshals. He's with me. Anyone asks? He's a consultant. The marshals looked skeptical but nodded. They left the hospital. Convoy of federal vehicles, racing against a clock that was already ticking down. Benjamin sat in Vance's SUV, docked beside him, neither man speaking, just watching the Montana landscape blur past. The first target was in Helena, a congressman who'd voted for war funding back in '91, who'd sent young men to and never questioned whether it was right. The killer assigned to him was a former Army Ranger named David Torres, 34 years old, 3 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, came home with PTSD and a Purple Heart and no support system. They reached the congressman's office building 20 minutes before Torres was scheduled to strike. Federal agents everywhere, evacuating the building, setting up perimeter. professional and fast. Vance coordinated from a mobile command center. Benjamin listened to the radio traffic, trying to think like Torres would think, trying to anticipate. "He's not coming here," Benjamin said. Vance looked at him. "What? This is too obvious. Too many agents. Torres is trained. He'll spot the setup. He'll abort or choose an alternate location." "Then where?" Benjamin thought about it, about what he'd do if he were Torres. Young, angry, determined to make a statement. The congressman's house. Family inside. Softer target. More personal. Vance's face went white. She grabbed the radio. "All units. Redirect to residential address. Possible threat to family." They raced across town, sirens blaring. Benjamin's shoulder was bleeding badly now, soaking through his jacket, but he didn't have time to care. They reached the house. Suburban neighborhood, nice homes, kids playing in yards. Normal life about to be shattered. Agents deployed. Surrounding the house. Vance knocked. The congressman's wife answered, confused, scared. "Ma'am, we need you and your family to come with us, right now." "What's happening?" "There's a credible threat." "Please, no time to explain." The wife called for her kids. 2 of them. Teenagers. They came reluctantly, questioning. The agents hustled them into armored vehicles. That's when the shot came. Not at the family, at the agents. One went down, leg wound, not fatal, but he was out of the fight. Sniper, somewhere elevated. Benjamin scanned the roof lines. There, a figure on the house across the street, prone, rifle aimed. Torres. Benjamin grabbed a rifle from one of the agents, ignored the protests, moved to cover, behind an SUV, set up a firing position. 800 meters, difficult shot, uphill, wind from the west, but possible. He breathed, found his center, became the weapon again. Fired. The rifle kicked. 800 meters away, Torres jerked. Hit, but not down. The young veteran rolled behind a chimney, disappeared from view. Damn it! Agents were moving now, storming the house where Torres had set up. But Benjamin knew it was too late. Torres was gone, moving, escaping through routes he'd planned in advance. Vance was shouting orders, establishing perimeter. But Benjamin could see it was futile. Torres had training, experience. He'd slip through. Unless Benjamin stood, started running, toward the back of the neighborhood, where the houses gave way to open land, where an escaping sniper would go to lose pursuit. Doc ran after him, old legs pumping. "You got a plan?" "Not really." "Fantastic." They reached the edge of the neighborhood, open field beyond, forest line 200 meters away. And there, a figure running, limping. Torres, wounded but mobile. Benjamin raised the rifle, but he didn't fire. Torres was too far, moving too fast. The shot would be luck more than skill. Torres reached the tree line, disappeared into the forest. Benjamin lowered the rifle. "We lost him," Doc said. "No, we didn't." "How do you figure?" "Because I know where he's going." Benjamin pulled out Emma's phone, found Torres in the files, read his background, his training, his psychology. There was a secondary target listed, backup plan if the congressman failed, a VA hospital, where Torres had been treated for PTSD, where he felt he'd been failed by the system. He's going there to make a statement, kill doctors, patients, anyone he blames for not helping him. When? Benjamin checked the timeline. Today, 4 hours from now. They got back to Vance, told her. She mobilized immediately, full federal response, evacuating the hospital, setting up containment. But Benjamin knew it wouldn't be enough. Torres was good, determined. He'd find a way in, find a way to kill, unless someone stopped him. Benjamin went to the hospital ahead of the federal teams, against orders, against common sense. But he went anyway because he understood something Vance didn't. This wasn't about tactics. This was about pain. And pain responded to understanding, not force. He found Torres in this hospital parking garage, 3rd level, setting up a firing position overlooking the main entrance, planning to shoot doctors and nurses as they arrived for shift change. Benjamin approached slowly, hands visible, no weapon drawn. Torres spun, rifle aimed, finger on trigger. "Don't," Benjamin said. "I'm not here to fight you." "Then why are you here?" "To talk." "Talking won't change anything." "Maybe not, but it's worth trying." Torres kept the rifle aimed. "You shot me. You were about to kill a family. What would you have done?" "The same thing." Torres lowered the rifle slightly. "But you don't understand. That congressman sent me to war, voted for it, profited from it, while I bled. I understand more than you think. I've been where you are. Angry, hurt, wanting someone to pay, but killing doesn't fix it, just makes more pain. You sound like a therapist. I sound like someone who wasted 33 years on hate. Don't make my mistake. Torres was wavering, the rifle dropping lower. What else am I supposed to do? The VAA failed me. My family doesn't understand. I've got nowhere to go, nothing to live for. Yes, you do. You've got a choice. Right now, put down the rifle. Get help. Real help. Let me help you find it. Why would you help me? I tried to kill people. Because someone helped me once, when I was lost. And maybe that's how this works. We save each other, one broken veteran at a time. Torres stood there, rifle hanging loose now, tears in his eyes. I'm so tired, he said. I know. Me too, but tired doesn't mean done. Come with me. Let's figure this out together. Torres lowered the rifle completely, set it down, raised his hands. Benjamin called Vance, gave her the location. Torres surrendered peacefully. No shots fired, no deaths. 1 down, 8 to go. The next 72 hours were a blur. Benjamin and Vance's team racing across Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, finding the killers Marcus had trained, talking them down, convincing them there was another way. Some listened, some didn't. 4 more were arrested peacefully. 2 escaped into the wilderness. 1 died in a shootout with federal agents. 2 others surrendered after Marcus sent them letters from his hospital bed, telling them to stand down. But lives were saved, targets protected, the conspiracy broken. On the 3rd day, Benjamin collapsed. Blood loss, exhaustion, infection from his untreated wound, his body finally giving out. He woke up in a hospital bed, Doc sitting beside him, Vance in the doorway. You're an idiot, Doc said. Been told. You almost died. Again. At some point, you're going to run out of luck. Probably. Vance stepped forward. Marcus O'Reilly is asking for you. He's stable, recovering, but he wants to talk. They wheeled Benjamin up to intensive care, to Marcus's room. The old Marine looked better, color in his face, strength returning. You stopped them, Marcus said. But the ones I trained, most of them, that's more than I deserved. Maybe, but it's done now. Marcus reached for Benjamin's hand. Thank you for not giving up on me, for proving hate doesn't have to win. We proved it together. They sat in silence, 2 old warriors, finally at peace. Outside the window, the sun was setting over Montana. Gold and orange light painting the mountains. Beautiful. And for the first time in 33 years, Benjamin Caine could see it. Benjamin spent 3 days in the hospital. 3 days of white walls and beeping machines and nurses checking vitals every 4 hours. 3 days of Doc sitting in the corner, reading old paperbacks and making sure no one bothered him who shouldn't. 3 days of his body slowly remembering how to heal. On the 4th day, Agent Vance came back. She looked tired, the kind of tired that came from too many hours and too few answers. She sat in the visitor's chair and didn't say anything for a long moment. Just looked at him like she was trying to figure out what to do with a problem that didn't fit any of her usual solutions. The recording, she said finally, the one of Castellano, I sent it to my director. And he sent it to his director, who sent it to someone at Justice, who sent it to someone at the Pentagon. It's been making rounds for 72 hours now, creating what they call a situation. What kind of situation? The kind where a lot of very important people are trying to decide if the truth is worth the embarrassment. Castellano has friends, powerful friends. They're pushing to bury this. Call it the ramblings of a senile old man coerced by a fugitive. Will they succeed? Vance shook her head. Not this time. Too many copies now. Too many people have heard it. And I made sure certain journalists got anonymous tips about where to look. The kind of journalists who don't take orders from the Pentagon. You leaked it. I made sure the truth had a chance. There's a difference. Benjamin almost smiled. You're going to get in trouble for that. Probably. But some things are worth the trouble. Those Marines deserve better than being forgotten. Better than having their deaths covered up for over 3 decades. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. The Pentagon still wants to talk to you. And Marcus. And anyone else connected to that operation. They're calling it a national security review, which is code for damage control. Let them talk. I've got nothing to hide anymore. Vance stood, walked to the window, looked out at buildings spread below, a city going about its business. People with normal problems, normal lives. What about the others? Benjamin asked. The killers we didn't stop. 2 are still out there. We've got alerts, surveillance. But they've gone to ground. Could be anywhere. Could be planning anything. Or they could have given up, realized the mission was over. Maybe, but I'm not counting on it. She turned back to face him. Marcus told them to stand down, sent messages through encrypted channels, said the war was over. That hate had lost. Most of them listened. The two who didn't respond worry me. But we're watching, waiting. That's all you can do sometimes. Vance nodded. There's something else. Castellano. What about him? He's dead. Heart attack. 3 days after you confronted him. Paramedics found him in his office. Massive coronary. He was dead before they arrived. Benjamin absorbed this, felt nothing, no satisfaction, no relief, just a quiet acknowledgement that the man was gone. The recording? Already public. Major news outlets picked it up yesterday. His name is being dragged through every paper in the country. The Pentagon is distancing themselves. CIA is opening an investigation. Too late to prosecute him, but his reputation is destroyed. His legacy is destroyed. That's something. That's everything. Vance walked back to the bed. You know they're still calling you a person of interest. Breaking and entering. Assault. But given the circumstances, given what the recording revealed, they're willing to make a deal. What kind of deal? No charges. You cooperate with the investigation. Provide testimony. Help them understand what happened in '91. In exchange, you walk away clean. And Marcus? Same deal. Though he'll have to answer for the murders. But given his history, what was done to him, his lawyer thinks they can argue diminished capacity. He'll do time, but not life. And he'll get treatment. Real treatment. Benjamin nodded slowly. Tell them I'll cooperate, but only if Marcus gets help. Real help. Not some military prison where they forget about him. I'll make sure of it. The next day they discharged him. Medical clearance, follow-up in 2 weeks. Prescriptions for antibiotics in pain management. Instructions to rest, to let his body heal, to stop trying to save the world. Doc drove him home, back to the ranch. 800 acres that felt both familiar and strange, like he'd been gone for years instead of a week, like everything had changed and nothing had. They pulled up to the main house. Benjamin sat in the truck for a moment, looking at the place he'd built, the life he'd tried to create, the isolation he'd mistaken for peace. You okay? Doc asked. Getting there. That's more than most people can say. They went inside. The house was exactly as he'd left it. Coffee mug in the sink. Letter to Doc still on the table. Rifle safe locked and waiting. Everything frozen in time. Except he wasn't frozen anymore. Something had shifted. Some weight he'd carried for over 3 decades had started to lift. Not gone, maybe never gone, but lighter, manageable. He made coffee, stood at the kitchen window, looked out at his land, the valley, the mountains, the ridge where Martha was buried and where he'd almost died and where something had finally broken free. Beautiful. That word again, Martha's word. And this time he felt it, really felt it. The way the light fell across the grass, the way the mountains held up the sky, the way everything fit together in a pattern that made sense if you stopped fighting it long enough to see. Doc stood beside him, 2 old men drinking coffee in silence. What are you going to do now? Doc asked. Benjamin thought about it, about the ranch, about the horses that needed feeding, about the fences that needed mending, about the simple work of living. I'm going to stay, he said. Keep the ranch going, take care of the land, maybe try to be something other than what the war made me. That's a good plan. We'll see. They spent the afternoon doing ranch work, feeding horses, checking cattle, repairing the fence line Benjamin had started the day before everything changed. The work was good, honest, the kind that made you tired in a way that felt earned. As the sun set, they sat on the porch. Doc in the rocking chair, Benjamin on the steps, neither one talking, just being. Doc broke the silence first. Marcus is being transferred tomorrow to a federal medical facility. They're going to evaluate him, treat him, then eventually trial. His lawyer thinks 5 to 10 years with treatment could be worse. He knew that when he turned himself in. When he told us about the others, he's trying to make peace with what he did. Best way he knows how. Think it'll work, making peace? For him? Maybe. For the families of the people he killed? Probably not. But trying is better than not trying. That your new philosophy? Still working on it. Doc stood, stretched, old joints protesting. I should get going. Store opens early tomorrow. Thanks for everything, for staying, for helping, for being there. That's what friends do, and Shepard, you did good. Saved a lot of lives. Stopped most of the killers. Got the truth out about Castellano. That's more than most people accomplish in a lifetime. Doesn't feel like enough. It never does. But it's still something. Doc drove away, taillights disappearing down the dirt road. Benjamin sat on the porch for another hour, watching the stars come out. Thousands of them. Millions. More than he'd ever be able to count. Somewhere out there, two of Marcus's students were still at large. Two people who might still try to kill. The thought concerned him, but he couldn't move. Couldn't chase shadows forever. Maybe he needed to learn that he wasn't responsible for every broken person in the world. That he couldn't fix everything. That sometimes you did what you could and then you let go. His phone rang. The sat phone. He almost didn't answer. Almost let it go to voicemail. But old habits died hard. It was Agent Vance. Update on the two who escaped, she said. One just turned himself in. Montana State Police found him walking down a highway. Said he was done. Wanted help. Marcus's letters got through to him. And the other? Still out there, but we intercepted communications. He's not going after his target anymore. He's heading to Canada. Trying to disappear. We'll find him eventually, but he's not a threat to anyone right now. That's good news. It is, Vance paused. There's something else. Emma Chen, she's being released next week. Charges reduced due to cooperation. 5 years probation, mandatory treatment. She asked if she could come see you. Why? Said she wants to help. With whatever you're planning to do next. She owes you, apparently. I'm not planning anything. Shepard, I've known you for a week, and even I don't believe that. Benjamin looked out at his land, at the space, at the possibility. Maybe I am planning something, he said, but it's not what you think. What is it? A place. For veterans, people like Marcus's students, people like me. Somewhere they can come. Work. Heal. Figure out who they are without the war. That's a good plan. We'll see. She hung up. Benjamin sat there, processing, free. After a week of running, of hiding, of fighting, he was free. Except he'd never really been free. Not in 33 years. The prison had never been federal. It had been in his head, walls built from guilt and grief and the weight of choices that couldn't be undone. But maybe those walls were starting to crack. Maybe freedom wasn't about forgetting or forgiving. Maybe it was about accepting, about carrying the weight without letting it crush you, about living despite the pain instead of because of it. The next morning, he drove to the hospital in Billings, one last time, to see Marcus before they transferred him. The old Marine was sitting up in bed, color better, strength returning. He smiled when Benjamin walked in. Heard you're a free man, Marcus said. Heard you've been writing letters. Someone had to. Couldn't let them all end up like me. You saved 2 more, talked them down. 3, actually. Got word this morning. The one heading to Canada sent me a message. Said he's turning himself in. Said if I could choose peace, so could he. Marcus looked out the window, at the Montana sky. Peace. Spent 33 years without it. Strange to have it now, at the end. This isn't the end, Benjamin said. You've got years left, even in custody. Years to keep writing, keep reaching out, keep trying to undo the damage. You really believe that? That I can make up for what I did? No, but I believe you can try. And trying matters. They sat in silence. 2 old warriors, 2 men who'd survived when they shouldn't have. 2 brothers finally at peace with each other, if not with themselves. A federal marshal appeared. Time for transport, she said gently. Professional. Polite. She helped Marcus into a wheelchair. Didn't cuff him. He wasn't a flight risk. Not anymore. As they wheeled him toward the door, Marcus looked back. Semper Fi, brother. Semper Fi. And then he was gone. Benjamin stood there for a moment. In the empty room, machine silent now. No more beeping, no more fighting, just quiet. He walked out of the hospital, into the bright Montana morning. November sun warming his face. He drove back to the ranch, back to the life that waited for him. That afternoon, he rode up to the ridge, on Ghost, the oldest horse, the one who remembered Martha too. They climbed slowly, the horse's breath steaming in the cold air. Benjamin's shoulder protesting but manageable. At the summit, he dismounted, walked to Martha's grave, stood there looking at the granite stone he'd carved with his own hands. I did it, he said to her, settled the debt, or as close as I could. Found Marcus, saved some people, lost others. About what you'd expect from me. The wind moved through the grass, no answer. Just the sound of the world breathing. I can see it now, he continued. What you used to talk about. The beauty. Took me 33 years, but I finally understand. Wish you were here to see it. Wish a lot of things, but wishing doesn't change anything. So I'm just going to try to live better, try to be better, try to make the time I have left mean something. He placed his hand on the stone, cold granite, unyielding, but somehow comforting. Thank you for waiting, he said, for believing there was something worth saving in me, for not giving up even when I did. He mounted Ghost, rode back down to the valley, back to the barn where Shadow and Echo waited, fed all 3 horses, checked their water, ran his hands over their flanks. Simple work, good work. That evening, Doc came back, brought groceries, stayed for dinner. They cooked together, steaks on the grill, potatoes, simple food. They ate in comfortable silence. Afterward, they sat on the porch, watching the sun set, the sky turning gold, then orange, then purple, then black. Think those last 2 will turn themselves in, Doc asked. I hope so, but hope's not a plan. What is your plan? Keep living. Keep trying. Turn this ranch into something that helps other vets. Place they can come, work the land, heal a little, like Marcus tried to do, but in the right way. That's a good plan. We'll see. The weeks passed, then months. Benjamin settled back into routine. Morning coffee, feeding horses, ranch work, evening on the porch watching the sunset. Simple days, quiet days. The news reported that Richard Castellano had been exposed posthumously. Federal investigation launched. His pension revoked. Family disgraced. The truth about the 91 operation slowly coming out. Classified documents being declassified. Families of the dead Marines finally getting answers. It wasn't justice, not really. Castellano would never stand trial. But the truth was out there now. The 6 names were being honored. Their sacrifices recognized. That was something. In December, Emma Chen showed up at the ranch. Benjamin was in the barn when he heard the truck pull up. Walked out to find her standing by her vehicle. Nervous, uncertain. Hope it's okay I came, she said. Benjamin nodded. It's okay. I wanted to thank you for giving me a choice, for showing me there was another way. You made the choice. I just pointed it out. Still, she looked around. This is beautiful. Your land. It is. She hesitated. Then, I'd like to help. With your plan, the veteran retreat. I've got skills, and I owe you. You don't owe me anything. Maybe not. But I want to. Want to prove I can be more than what Marcus made me. Benjamin studied her, saw genuine desire to change, to help, to heal. All right, he said. We start in the spring, building cabins, setting up the program. I could use the help. She smiled. First real smile he'd seen from her. Thank you. Thank you for coming. The months turned to seasons. Winter settled over Montana. Snow on the mountains, ice on the streams. The ranch quiet and still. Benjamin worked every day, planning, preparing. With Emma's help and Doc's advice, the project took shape. Blueprints for cabins, workshop for therapy, riding trails for the horses, a memorial garden for the fallen. In January, Agent Vance called. Marcus O'Reilly died, she said quietly. Benjamin closed his eyes. How? Heart failure. In his sleep. The doctor said it was peaceful. He was 63. All those years in captivity, the torture, it took its toll. Did he say anything before he died? He left a letter. For you, they're mailing it. The letter arrived 3 days later. Benjamin sat at his kitchen table, looked at the envelope. Marcus's handwriting, shaky but clear. He opened it. The letter was short. Shepherd, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. That's okay. I'm ready. Been ready for a long time. Just had to finish what I started. Make things right as much as I could. Thank you for not giving up on me. For proving that people can change. That hate doesn't have to win. That brotherhood matters even after 33 years. I'm sorry. For everything. For the killing, for the pain I caused, for wasting so much time on revenge that didn't fix anything. Tell the families. Tell Lucky's mother and tell Miggy's sister. Tell Preacher's wife. Tell Bulldog's daughters. Tell Ray Ray's son. Tell Kid's parents. Tell them I never forgot. That I carried them every day. That they mattered. And tell yourself, you did good. You saved people. You chose truth. You proved that old warriors can still find peace. Semper Fi, brother. See you on the other side. Marcus. Benjamin read the letter 3 times. Then he folded it carefully, placed it in the box where he kept important things. Martha's wedding ring, David's dog tags, the photo of his squad from '91. He walked out to the ridge, to Martha's grave, stood there in the cold wind. Marcus is gone, he said to her. Made his peace, as much as anyone can. Think he's with the others now. Lucky and Miggy and Preacher and Bulldog and Ray and Kid. Think they're all together. Hope they can forgive him. Forgive me. In February, Benjamin flew to Arlington. First time on a plane in 20 years. First time leaving Montana, and longer than that. The world felt strange, too fast, too loud, too many people, but he went anyway. The memorial service was small, just family members of the 6, some military brass. Agent Vance. Doc had come too. Emma as well. Refused to let Benjamin do this alone. They gathered at the memorial wall, 6 new plaques being installed, one for each Marine who died in the desert. Corporal Jackson Williams, age 19, Louisville, Kentucky. Lance Corporal Miguel Santos, age 20, San Antonio, Texas. Private First Class Timothy Moore, age 18, Mobile, Alabama. Sergeant Frank Kennedy, age 28, Chicago, Illinois. Corporal Raymond Johnson, age 21, Detroit, Michigan. Lance Corporal David Tran, age 17, first-generation American. Benjamin stood before the families, these people who'd lost fathers and sons and brothers over 3 decades ago. These people who'd never known the truth until now. He told them everything about the mission, about the ambush, about the choices made in chaos and fear, about the helicopter, about the guilt he'd carried, about Marcus surviving and suffering and seeking revenge and finally finding peace. He told them their loved ones had been warriors, had been brothers, had mattered. When he finished, Lucky Williams's mother approached. She was 80, tiny, bent with age, but her eyes were clear. She took Benjamin's hand. Thank you, she said, for remembering him, for making sure he wasn't forgotten. I'm sorry, Benjamin said, for leaving them, for not going back. You were young, you were scared, you did what you had to do, and then you spent the rest of your life trying to make it right. That's all anyone can do. She hugged him. This old woman who'd lost her son in a desert over 3 decades ago, hugging the man who'd lived while her son died, forgiving him without being asked. The other families came forward, one by one, shaking his hand, thanking him, telling him stories about their loved ones, sharing the people behind the names. Miggy's sister showed him cartoons her brother had drawn, sent home from the war, beautiful sketches of desert life and fellow Marines and dreams of home. Preacher's widow showed him the Bible her husband had carried, worn and sand-stained, passages underlined, notes in the margins about faith and fear and finding God in darkness. Bulldog's daughters showed him photos of the man they never knew, their father smiling in uniform, strong and young and alive. Ray's son told him about growing up without a father, about the empty chair at every birthday, about finally having answers. Kids' parents spoke in accented English about their son who'd wanted to serve the country that took them in, who'd lied about his age because he believed in something greater than himself. Benjamin listened to it all, absorbed it all, carried it all. That night he stood at the tomb of the unknown soldier, watching the guard march, precise, eternal, honoring the fallen who had no names. Doc stood beside him. You okay? Doc asked. Yeah, I think I am. What changed? I stopped carrying the guilt alone. Let other people help me carry it. Turns out it's lighter that way. That's pretty wise for a stubborn old Marine. Had a good teacher. They flew back to Montana the next day. Back to the ranch. Back to the life Benjamin was building. Spring came. The snow melted. Green returned to the valley. Benjamin's shoulder healed completely. The veterans' retreat took shape. 5 cabins finished. Workshop operational. Garden planted with stones bearing 6 names. In May, the first veterans arrived. 3 of them. Young men from Iraq and Afghanistan, carrying wounds both visible and invisible, looking for a place to heal. Benjamin met them at the gate, showed them the land, the horses, the work that needed doing. No therapy sessions, he told them. No group discussions unless you want them. Just work. Just quiet. Just time to remember who you were before the war and figure out who you want to be after. They stayed a month, worked the land, rode the horses, sat on the porch in the evenings watching the sunset. Slowly the tension left their shoulders, the fear left their eyes. When they left, they were different. not fixed. Benjamin knew better than to promise fixing, but lighter, more hopeful, moving towards something instead of running from it. More veterans came. Word spread. The Shepherd's Rest, a place where warriors could find peace. Benjamin ran it with Doc's help, and Emma's. Together they built something good from all that pain, something that honored the fallen by helping the living. On a warm June evening, Benjamin rode up to the ridge, to Martha's grave, the sunset painting everything gold. "We did it," he told her. "Built something that matters. Helped people who needed it. Made the pain mean something." He sat there as the sun went down, as the stars came out, as the world turned beneath him. For the first time in 33 years, Benjamin Caine felt at peace. Not because the guilt was gone, it would never be gone. Not because the war was over. War never really ended for the people who fought it. But because he'd learned to carry the weight without being crushed by it. Learned to live with the pain instead of being consumed by it. Learned that redemption wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about building a future that honored it. He'd been a shepherd once, protecting his flock with a rifle and a scope, watching over his brothers from high ground. Now he was a shepherd again, but different, watching over broken warriors, offering them a place to rest, showing them that healing was possible, that peace was possible, that life after war was possible. It wasn't the life he'd planned, wasn't the life he'd expected, but it was good, and good was enough. He rode back down to the valley, to the ranch house where a light burned in the window, where Doc and Emma waited, where tomorrow would bring more work and more healing and more life. Benjamin Caine dismounted, walked to the barn, put Ghost away for the night, fed the horses one last time, stood there in the quiet listening to them breathe. Then he walked to the house, opened the door, went inside, and lived. The end.